So yeah, it's like I was saying, it's not even quite a uh a
Already.
podcast yet. Um,
Yeah.
However, it is developing into something like that because we do the All American Kettlebell Open, and we started that 2 years ago, and this is the
Yeah.
third year doing it, and I've
Mhm.
kind of gotten to this rhythm of interviewing the athletes that are coming out and some of the coaches that are coming out and team captains and things like that. And in
Sick.
doing so, it's kind of showed me that I kind of like interviewing people and getting people to talk about kettlebells and the passion behind it and
Yeah. Yeah.
specifically I've over the past year I have completely fallen in love with pentathlon. So I've gotten deeper into following guys like you, uh,
Yeah.
Kevin Dwong, which he's coming out to the All American this year. Uh, I,
Sick.
I
Love
actually
that.
just interviewed him a couple weeks ago, and
Sick.
you know, one of your coaches, Phoebion
Finbar. Finbar.
Finbar, sorry. Uh,
Yeah.
I'd like to get him on it eventually because I've
Yeah.
fallen in love with,
He's
the pentathlon.
yeah.
I just want to be a part of that community.
Yeah.
It's so
Man,
awesome.
he's the Mac Daddy. Like he is he honestly like the most like knowledgeable dude. Like
Yeah,
I coached me for like 5, 6 years. Yeah, the amount I learned from him was just like second to none.
yeah,
His knowledge is insane. Like so he'll be a great person to have on. You'll learn like so much. And again, like what the thing I think with this is like the viewers, obviously people listening, because I suppose there isn't a lot of like information on like pentathlon and
exactly.
from
Yep.
especially from a programming standpoint and even military snatch as well. Like, if you even Google military snatch, you're going to get a lot of like strong first,
Right.
style stuff as opposed to kettlebell sports. So I think to have a platform like this to for people that are doing it, living it, experiencing it, and maybe messing up along the way, like for them to explain their processes, like it's pretty sick.
Right.
Yeah, so that's cool. You good a good list of guests though. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, so I've been following your journey for like the last year, maybe more, following your Instagram. We've never
Yeah,
really chatted until I reached out to ask for the interview. But you do some
yeah,
big stuff, man, and you're a big inspiration in the pentathlon, well, in kettlebell sport, but specifically the pentathlon, so I wanted to
yeah,
get
yeah,
on
yeah.
here and see, some insights that maybe you could give us. But let's start with where you started with kettlebell sport. Well, first of all, introduce yourself. Let's
Yeah.
talk about your journey and your background, how you got into kettlebells, and what drew you to the pentathlon, you know, in particular.
Yeah. So my background, I suppose, like growing up, my dad was military, so he was like a kind of like a PTI, you would call like a physical training instructor in the military. So I was always brought up around like gyms, going school holidays was spent like in the gym with him while he was working. So just messing around the machine. So I suppose like the gym culture has always been, I suppose, part of my life and something I'm very like used to. So growing up was always like in the gym, sports, football, did MMA for a few years, which totally fell in love with. And then really like from there, like, moved into like your standard weight training. Like I suppose every, you know, 18, 19, 20-year-old does, finds the gym, wants to get a sick pump, wants to look good. So kind of went down that road. And then really started taking it seriously. I had a friend who was competing in like a bodybuilding competition. So I was just kind of there for the ride, like literally just like hitchhiking off his program, just having fun with it. Trained really, really hard with him for about 2 years. And then from there, got into like working in gyms. I think when I was 21, started working in my first gym. So 30, 32 now. So fucking hell, like 11 years ago. So yeah, like it's just something I've grown up with. So the very first gym I worked in just outside Belfast, one of the guys that owned it was a SFG kind of strong first guy. So he kind of led me down the route of hard style, especially from a coaching standpoint. So my first, I suppose, introduction to kettlebells was the hard style approach. He kind of like at that point, kettlebell sport wasn't even on my radar. Like it was like, I seen him do it. He did a little bit of competing himself, but I looked at it and went, what is going on there? Coming from a hardstyle standpoint where it's very like inefficient. It's like tension, like go, and then you're seeing someone just be like really like, efficient, and it's just this crazy like opposite technique. It was just a bit crazy. So I'd like dabbled in it a little bit, didn't do too much, and went down the hardstyle route. So my whole kind of, I suppose, training career was a mixture between hardstyle kettlebell training, heavy presses, powerlifting style training, just big burly barbell type stuff. And then from there, like I competed in the TSC a few times where you do the, max deadlift, 5-minute snatch test, and max pull-ups. So that's where I really started to like delve into, the 5-minute snatch test as a whole, like with the 32, like, doing that and learning that and going through hard style as well, not even like GS, like, just bombing hard style snatches that was an eye opener, because then I had to like figure out how do I make hard style more efficient.
Right.
And that's why I almost like had some weird kind of hybrid approach.
Mm-hmm.
And then through coaching, I suppose, like I just kind of fell in love with, the art of kettlebell coaching, the art of kettlebell training as a whole. And I think once kind of COVID came around, my whole business model went completely from, in-person gym barbell to just, right, let's capitalize on this lump of metal with a handle, and let's go deep with it. So that's where I went all in with kettlebell training. And it was over that time, it was 2021, where I started kind of, I coached with Finbar from probably 2019. So in that time, the TSE comps did a lot of like powerlifting style training. And then it was Finbar that says, look, I obviously seen kettlebell sport through him and thought, wow, like that is, the more I like look at this thing, the more I'm like, that's gnarly. Like it's a sick sport. And once I understood, the different competitions, like looking at the biathlon, and then you're looking at the big names in that, like you're looking at Denisov and all these boys, and you're like, and Valasev, you're like, wow, so you're seeing some of the numbers these guys are putting up with these weights. And it's not just a matter of, throwing a 16 kilo up for 10 minutes. It's like, double 32s above the head for 10 minutes straight. It's like, it's no joke. So, speaking of Finbar a good bit and, going back and forth with him, and he said, look, there's an event called the Pentathlon that's coming up. It's a nice way, to get into kettlebell sport, just given that it's I suppose it's multi-switch nature. For me, coming from like a big bench press background, like my double like overhead mobility wouldn't be amazing, wouldn't be comfortable, put it that way. So, having the single bell, if you're strong as well, you're going to like it's going to definitely help. So I think having a good bout of strength, I was able to kind of start well. And then just kind of, I think just the nuances of the jerks, the half snatches, and trying to be as efficient with the push press was, where I was like, okay, I can muscle the shit out the clean. I can do that all day. The press is my strongest asset.
Mm-hmm.
So, he just got me, I think it was maybe about 3 or 4 months of, just very specific, dialed in, relatively low volume, but just really loads of work on technique, light weights, for about 3 months, and then had my first comp, the Irish Nationals, in his gym, which was amazing. So that's where I had my first pentathlon competition. And really from there, I fell in love with it, because once I started to learn about the strategic approach to it, how to maximize points, how to, go up in a kettlebell size, but then being aware that you want to maximize points, and could that potentially, knock you in the next category or the next event, it's once I start to learn about that and go, wow, like, this isn't just, throwing bells around for 6 minutes. There's a real kind of strategic approach that you've got to take to your training. You've got to take to, the platform, I suppose, as well. And really from there, like that's just where it blossomed. I competed in a couple of UK competitions. And really my score just went bang, 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 bang. It just kept going up. And then I think my best score today was like 2,442 points in Budapest. Yeah. So that was 2023. Yeah.
Man, that's insane scores.
Yeah. So it was, I wasn't planning on doing that. That wasn't the plan at all. It was me and a Polish guy, Kasper Aleph, I think he's called. He's a freak. Between me and him, so I think we were both going like toe to toe.
Wow.
I think he beat me to first place. He beat me by like 4 points. So I think there was like, I think we both did like 50 kilo clean, and then We
What?
did we did 30, we did 36 press, 34 jerk, and then I did 32 half snatch, and he did 28 half snatch. And then I did 34 push press, and he went to 36.
Oh,
And he pipped me on the push press, like, oh, so I was gutted.
sounds
But
like
yeah, I was like,
1 or 2 reps he got you on.
literally, it was there was like nothing in it, and we both like I thought I won. So as soon as I ended, I was like, God, oh, come on, like massive
I
PB.
bet that room was so full of energy.
Oh man, it was class because like no one really knew like who was. They knew it was a battle between us two. They
Yeah.
knew there was barely anything in it. So when we finished, like we both obviously thought we'd won. So we were like both cheering, like come on. And then once we like got to look at the points, where I was like, but it was bittersweet because it was like the best performance I've ever done. Like all my friends came over to watch. It was the atmosphere was insane, and it was just like it all the kind of like prep over the past all the competitions that I've done, all the prep that I had done had all kind of like just led nicely to that point. So yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, I suppose that's been the journey so far, man. That's been from zero to now. So it's been a
Nice.
hell of a journey. And
I want,
now I suppose I found myself in the region of military snatch, which is another
yeah,
stage.
I just saw you did last weekend at the Aussie Nationals. You did 210 reps for military snatch.
Yeah.
With
First
32
time competing in
kg,
that.
32 kg, just so the
Yeah,
listeners understand that that's 70 pounds
yeah,
you're just tossing up overhead for
yeah,
12 minutes.
yeah, yeah,
Military snatch is a 12-minute event and it's multi-switch, so it's not quite as demanding on the grip as a classical one switch 10-minute snatch set. However, it is
yeah.
still it's still quite tough.
Yeah, because you can just go a lot pacier with it. You know what I mean? You can push it a lot more, so it's a lot more of it's more of a threshold kind of style event, I suppose, like where your heart rate is just high and sustained.
Mhm.
And yes, you've got to pace it, but I think if you've got an engine and you've got technique, like that, you're gonna win. You're gonna get a solid score. So yeah, it was a really good event. I really enjoyed it.
What did you walk away
And
with? Did you walk away with gold that event? Because I know.
no, so
Oh, go ahead.
I gotta say, Alessandro. I can't remember his second name. You might follow him. He's a fucking animal. He's an Italian guy. He lives in Australia.
Uh-huh.
Alessandro.
I think I
I
do
can't remember.
follow him. He's a beast.
Yeah. So he got 216.
Mm.
216. I got 210. So we were close, but yeah, because like since I've only been in Australia about 4 months,
Hmm.
so when I got here, like the IKMF, the pentathlon isn't really big on the west side of Australia where I am.
Right.
It's bigger like in Melbourne on the east coast.
Time for you to help
So
grow it out there, bud.
yeah, I need to build it big time. I think now it's off season. I'm just like, right, pentathlon, let's go. Because I've
Hmm.
just seen there like the New Zealand Nationals is on here in November, and they're doing pentathlon. So I was like, right, time to get the pentathlon boots back
Time
on.
to
Let's
bring
go.
it up. uh,
But yeah, go ahead.
no, to dial it back a little bit, you're so you started with hard style, and then you kind of through FUBAR, FinBar, you
Yeah,
found sport, you found pentathlon.
yeah,
Given your experience that you have both hard style and the sport, what is the key differences between the two styles that you've experienced, and what draws you more towards, or do you still lean towards one side or the other? Do you still practice hard style? What's your
yeah. It's where I always like describe to clients, like whenever they ask me because I teach a lot of clients hard style to begin with, just from a kind of tension technique standpoint, nice crossover to just like general strength. But I always I like to look at the kettlebell, I like to look on a spectrum of, on one side you have hard style where it's very inefficient, high tension, high muscular demand, high neuromuscular demand. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have kettlebell sport where you're trying to be really efficient and really lazy and almost like not use your muscles and use momentum, and you've got to fixate. And yes, there's an area of tension needed to, lock out and fixate and keep everything in check, but you're trying to be as efficient as possible. And I think whenever I went from hardstyle to to kettlebell sport, I think for me, it was that challenge, because I'm a sucker for like, if I'm really bad at something, like running, for example, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn about it. I'm gonna get better at it. So
Mhm.
once I was, went from hardstyle to kettlebell sport, and I found myself like being so like gassing so quick, like push press, like was just my nemesis because I was so tight and like rigid and I didn't know how to relax. So I
Mhm.
think once I understood the art of relaxation and the art of, using your legs and letting your arm almost guide the bell up as opposed to like trying to press the thing,
Mhm.
it became much more of like almost like an exploration of how do I how do I kind of get better at this? How do I not gas myself out? How do I explore, like, how can I use my whole body to achieve these like perfect reps?
Mhm.
And then it's going from like, because I suppose if you haven't got that kind of technical aspect and you don't really know what you're looking at, you don't understand the technical qualities needed to perform the likes of a full snatch. And you're looking at the standard, especially in Australia. Like the standard in Australia is insane. Of fixating and trying to keep everything still, and you
Yeah.
know these small nuances that come with every single rep, not just the set by itself. It's every single rep they're looking at and you're judged
Right.
on. So I
Mhm.
think once I like figured that out, I was like, wow, like that's something I want to kind of explore more of. But I suppose for me, like once I could realize, as you say, like you hear a 10-minute set and you go, throwing a 24-kilo bell above my head for 10 minutes, like, are you mad? And then once you understand the efficiency and the skill and the technique that you can learn and then achieve this
Mhm.
10-minute set, then you're like, whoa, okay, I get it. And I think for me, I wanted to explore that more. And once I kind of achieved the 24-kilo military snatch, I was like, okay, let's go 28. Let's try and find more efficiency, more relaxation. Then once I got that, I was like, okay, let's train with the 32. Let's try and create that same level of, threshold, but with a heavier bell, And I think for me, like just exploring that, and going from that hard style tension, which I still do. I still love training that style. I love like double bell complexes and pressing heavy bells and doing double bell front squats. Like love it because it's like if I've 15 minutes and I just want to do like a pumpy style high tension workout and just rip, and I'm like I'm all in.
Right.
But as I said, like majority of training is going to be longer sets, longer pieces, depending on what's coming up. But yeah, I think for me at the moment, I love blending between the two. I love teaching people. I think now I'm probably one of the few that maybe have a crossover of both, of hard style and kettlebell sport. You'll find, you probably know yourself, like people are like one or the other. It's
Yeah.
either hard style and
Yeah.
that's it, or it's kettlebell sport, nothing else. So I
Right.
think it's nice to have the blend of the two and understand the nuances between the two.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can make decisions on your training, on if you're a coach, how you want to coach someone.
Mhm.
You can let someone explore the different techniques and whatever they prefer or what they naturally pick up or what they naturally
Right.
gravitate to. Okay, we can go in that direction. Cool.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. And I've got a few clients myself who I've done the exact same thing with. I've just dabbled in it in two techniques, the hard style and the kettlebell sport, and gone, just let them figure it out and then see how they naturally will move with the bell. And they're like, yeah, you're going to be for kettlebell sport. Let's go.
I got super lucky um, when I first started seeking out like a kettlebell coach. I found Steve Cotter from the IKFF, and
Wow.
he was my first coach, and he coached me all the way up. I'm still in his system, the IKFF system. I'm master coach with them all the way up until he passed away last year. But
Yeah.
I was super lucky to train under him and kind of get that hybrid style. That's his because he
Yeah.
started with Pavel way back in the day, and then his story is, he went to Russia and he sees these kind of like you. He's seeing these guys put up 32s for 10 minutes, and he's like, "There's something going on here. There's something.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a missing link here that the hard style isn't quite touching on. So
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
developed this mix between the two, and it's a beautiful thing that I got involved with that too
Mm.
when I first started. Uh,
Yeah.
Last week, I seen you post something about the 300 workout, and it resonated so deeply with me because back in I was also in the military, and when I was stationed at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, my roommate was my workout partner, and
Okay.
we always, train dumbbells, barbells. That was the thing, right? And
Yeah.
one day he asked me if I wanted to do this 300 workout, right? And I'm like, what the hell
Yeah.
is this? I was like, sure, I'll do it, right? And so, it's 25 pull-ups at the beginning and 25 pull-ups at the end. And
Yeah.
it took
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
the first time he took me through this workout, it took me an hour and a half to get through the
Yeah.
entire workout. And
Yeah.
that was actually my first time that I ever touched a kettlebell. And, for the 25 clean and press on each side.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
today I tell the story, like, and I actually have this video from 2019 when I tried to revisit the 300 workout. I'm like, man, I need to get my cardio back up. I'm gonna do that workout again, right? I'm gonna start training that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, in 2011, that's the first time that I touched a kettlebell. And my buddy was the one that taught me how to do the clean and press. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the CrossFitters, right? At the CrossFit Games, how they do like a ground to shoulder and then they press weight out here like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my technique
Yeah.
was so ridiculously just funky because
Just hands torn to pieces,
oh
like
my God,
skin.
terrible, terrible. But in 2019, when I tried to revisit that 300 workout, that's when I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this kettlebell stuff. And then
Yeah.
that's kind of how I fell into the uh,
Yeah.
the rabbit hole of kettlebell. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's your take on the 300 workout? And do you still do that right now? Do you still try to train
So,
that? Because that is a
do you know what? Like, it's honestly like I haven't, probably same yourself. Probably haven't done it since probably 2011 as well, but 2010 probably.
yeah.
But there's one recently I did a kettlebell Murph. Did you
Oh
see that?
yeah,
No.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was I did it probably about 2 months ago. And I'm gonna use that as almost like a little bit of a benchmark for just like general fitness and It took me like about 48 minutes to do. So obviously the mile run, and then I did 100 one arm long cycle, 200 jerks, and then 300 snatches. I did it with the 28, and then the run at the end, the mile run at the end. But me and the two, like Tristan and Rob, the guys I train with over here,
Mm-hmm.
Tristan Crane, he'd be a good one to have on as well. Actually, he's been in the game a while. Like
Yeah,
he's almost like
when we're done, if you got names that you think would be great,
yeah,
I'd love to
because
talk.
he's a real personality. Like he's been in the game. He's the president now of the Australian Kettlebell Sports Society. So,
Oh,
and
cool.
he's got a lot of knowledge. He's a lovely guy, and he just lives and breathes the sport. Like he's got a really cool setup at home. He's really nice enough to let me go and train with him since I've got here. Super
Nice.
nice dude. But yeah, like me, him, and Rob are we're gonna use that as like a bit of a benchmark, and probably like every quarter we're gonna just go and revisit that. Same idea though, like how like use that as a benchmark of just overall fitness and endurance. Do a bit of a training cycle, on whatever we're going to do, whether it's military snatch, pentathlon. Rob loves biathlon, Tristan loves long cycle. And like, can we go back after 3 months after a training block and see, okay, like have our times improved? Are we fitter? Are we more endured? Are we better? I think it'd be pretty cool to have that as a bit of a standard. Because if you think about it, like it ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
It's got your cardio in there. It's got, you're finishing with 300 snatches, which is fuck loads.
Oh yeah.
If you're going,
Oh yeah.
if you're going from maybe 20 rep sets to 30 rep sets, each hand, then you're probably going to be in a decent place.
Yeah.
Definitely
Sure.
like a PFT kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's cool, man. Yeah,
yeah,
I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this dude. He's talking about the workout.
yeah. He does that for fun.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely gonna revisit the 300 one though, definitely, because whenever you mentioned it to me on Instagram about it, I was like, I just mentioned that. I'm gonna just dig that out again and give it a black.
Yeah, I keep it saved in a folder so I just never forget it. You know what I mean? Because I'm
Yeah,
always like, this is I remember we used to do it a lot when I was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and we got to the point where I had a sub 15 minute and I'm blasting through the pull-ups, and the struggle was finishing the pull-ups at the end like quickly,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But blasting through the first set of 25 pull-ups right into the fucking deadlifts, into the push-ups, the box
yeah, yeah.
jumps. you know,
Yeah.
just so
Yeah, yeah.
brutal. And 24-inch box jumps, man, that was the killer,
Nasty,
you know?
nasty. I mean, you think you're good. You think going back in the pull-ups, you're like, oh, haven't done it for a whole 10 minutes, and you go back in, your grip is just
Oh, it's wrecked.
completely juiced.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
favorite
yeah.
though is the floor swipers.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, there was yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Because I think there was a variation where
You're
you could do it from
stabilizing this bar, the
yeah,
135-pound bar, you're stabilizing it and you're just taking your feet and you're touching each plate. That,
yeah.
like, I still do that. I like when guys ask me, what's the best way to train my abs? And I'm like, you got to try this. You got to try this.
300.
And it's
Let's go.
just that workout outside, take it as an excerpt out of the 300 workout and just make guys do that. And it kills me,
Yeah.
you know?
Sick. Sick. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Because it was a men's health magazine where I seen it.
Yep.
Like I
Same.
think men's health, I don't think they're as popular now, but I remember like back in the day, like I would have got it religiously and read it and looked for these little workouts to follow and copy and just do in the gym. Back before like I suppose Google was a big thing or ChatGPT or whatever it was.
Yeah, we didn't
But
have
it's like
YouTube. I didn't.
didn't have YouTube. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think when YouTube came out, was it 2007? Was it? I don't know.
Yeah, something like
But yeah, but it was as you say, like it's just you open up and you go like, oh yes, workout of the week, like let's rip that.
and of course,
suppose,
it's showing photos of Gerard Butler and the 300 cast, like just absolutely freaking jacked.
Yeah. And what no one really knew was like
They didn't
between
really
every
tell us
single
that they did a whole training cycle to get to that. Like the 300 workouts, the test, like these guys did a whole training cycle to get to it. They didn't tell you that. They're like, here, take this test and just go do it.
Yeah. Juiced out their minds. And then between every single take, they're just getting absolutely pumped out of their minds. Like they're probably some sort of CGI on them as well, like spray on six packs, and everyone was there going, if I just do this workout, like I'll be like Jared. Sweet. Let's go.
Hey, give me 1 second. My boy just woke up. I just want to let him know where I'm at.
All good, man. All good.
My apologies, brother.
All good, man. All good.
Boy's 4 years old. He wakes up. And Mama had to go to work today. So
sick. Is this set up at your house then? Yeah, it's just like your garage you're in.
This is my little home gym. Yep.
So sick. That's so cool, man.
I appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, we got the full sets of. We got all the bells. Got the whole.
How do you find?
What's that?
Do you like them bells? Like, do you like like that new style of bell? I seen yourself and Balasev. Like,
I'm gonna tell you right now, they're the future. They're here now.
Yeah.
They're the future. Yeah. They're the future of kettlebells.
Yeah.
They're amazing, man. Yeah.
How do they sit? Do they sit a lot nicer, like on the wrist? I'm assuming. Like, are they better? Like, kind of like
incredibly nice. Here, let me. So, yeah, you got that nice little,
Yeah.
So when you're there, real nice. Nope.
Yeah, it's lovely.
No pressure points there.
Suppose it's a bit easier there, like from a fixation standpoint. If that bell's not rolling, on the wrist, it's probably going to be a little bit. It's probably going to work for you to an extent as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. It's so much more comfortable. I started with the my very first bell. Honestly, was I bought it from On It, right? The gorilla face bell. So this is the machine I bought my wife, but I bought myself the 16 kg, the gorilla face one, the Joe Rogan one.
Yeah.
And then my next one was the Rogue just cast iron bell, you know, the
Yeah.
44 or the 20
Yeah.
kg.
Yeah.
Then once I started getting a little deeper in with Steve Cotter, I started buying the Kettlebell Kings. So I have a
Yeah.
set. I have a set of the competition bells through Kettlebell Kings from 12 to 24.
Yeah.
Uh, so when I started the All American Kettlebell Open, I was working with Dennis Vasilev, and
Mhm.
I was working with Gold's Gym at the time. Gold's Gym was one of the main sponsors, and
Yeah.
so the owner of the Golds said if I can find an American-made product, he would help me. He would sponsor it by purchasing, you know, some of the bells, not all of them, some of them. So I
Okay.
reached out to Dennis and I told Dennis what the deal was, and Dennis is like, "Oh, that's cool as hell. Here is Nikolai Punchlove from Pro Kettlebell." So that's how I got connected with Nikolai,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I ordered my first pair of 20 kgs from him,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's the end of the line right there. I put my
What was the love
kettlebell
story?
in a storage unit.
Yeah.
I'm not even ashamed of it, dude, because these bells are just so efficient. They're so ergonomical is the scientific word.
Yeah. Yeah.
The the bottom is so open, you know,
Oh.
so that keeps the weight very high.
Yeah.
The weight is very
Yeah.
high up here, right? So
Yeah.
the center of mass is like right here at the handle, so it makes them so fast. Like on the transitions for the cleans, your hand insertion, they just go
Yeah.
right at.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
It'd be
as
interesting to get my hands on them actually, because I definitely I've been looking at them. I've seen obviously yourself and Valisev like been playing around them. I'm like, oh, I need to have a go with them.
yeah,
As you say, like I've Wolverson's quite a big brand in the UK, but they have competition. They have like strange. They've got like two types of bells. They've got competition bells and they've got like GS bells, which are this. They should be the same thing,
right.
but the competition bell has it. The window is honestly it's massive, and I bought a 48 from them
Mhm.
and used it throughout all my pentathlon training. I think it's one of the reasons why my clean became so strong, because the window was so big and the weight of the bell, as you say, like was all at the bottom. So
Yeah,
this 48 was just the fucking heaviest thing. But
yeah.
when I went to competition and used, a Kettlebell Kings 48, it felt like a different bell. It felt like I was using like a 44 or a 40.
Wow.
Just how it moved, and because the weight was a lot more compact as opposed to like lengthened out, I was able to move, the 50 kilo or 48, for like with ease, because so it was almost like at first I was like, I hate this bell. I hate it with a passion. Like the window's too big. It's horrible on my wrist. I hate it. But then going into competition, I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad I trained with that now.
Right,
The
right.
misery was worth it.
I'm telling you, these bells are like they're going to take over what we know as competition bells today, and like your world championships. Because they're starting to get picked up. Like Dennis Vasilev has picked them up. They're now the official bell of the IKO. So the Kettlebell Sport World League, they're now the official bell of that league. Um,
Do you think that like is that shape, like is it patent, that shape? Do you think like if
it's
the
patented.
Kettlebell Kings couldn't take it and go, okay, we're going
It
to do something
cannot.
like this?
No.
You can't. Okay.
Yeah, it's a pro kettlebell design. Nikolai Punchlove and Amber Punchlove, they designed it.
Yeah.
It's an invention. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Locked in.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially, I mean, I don't want to put words in Nikolai's mouth, um, but I'm sure being a pentathlon guy, I'm sure you know who Valerie Fedorenko is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Valerie had the contoured surfaces on his precision bells, right? He had the
Yeah.
flat surface,
Yeah.
right? So Nikolai kind of took that design and not took it, but the idea of that design, and he just, he made some changes and kind of made it what it is,
Yeah.
uh,
100%.
because I mean, that's what happens, and you know,
It's just it's innovation, isn't it? It's just taking something that's
progressive
maybe
things
already been
has to
done,
take
and it's
place. So,
100%.
but yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I got a pair of 32s from Valerie because he come out to the All American last year, and I was trying to get him out again this year, but he had some personal stuff going on, so he couldn't make it. But he'll be back next
Mhm.
year.
Sick.
But
Oh,
yeah, I got a pair of his precision bells, and you can even feel the difference between those two bells, between the
yeah,
pros and then the precision bells. What's up, buddy?
yeah.
Is that your shield? You want to say hi to Garrett? Oh, okay. He
Shy.
said no.
He's like, no, I'm
Just
good.
broke up. Uh, so Garrett, take me through your first competition. What was that experience like? And kind of what how did it shape your approach going forward from there for kettlebell
Yeah.
sport?
So first comp was in Finbar's gym in Belfast, and it was at the Irish Nationals. So I think I was going in with about, I think, 8 weeks prep. So I had 8 weeks where I just, again, my knowledge of kettlebells was, the only thing I kind of struggled with was the jerk. The jerk was the one thing that was like my Achilles heel. I was like, it was a movement that I was not familiar with at all. So it was the one that I kind of like, would hold my breath with, get very stressed out with. And, it just felt a little bit awkward. But, 8 weeks of perseverance and, just dialing in technique, being with Finbar, showing me the cues and just how to make it a little bit better. It eventually kind of got to where it was. So my first comp was, I can't remember how many points it was, but it was a 36 clean. It was a 30 kilo clean and press. It was 24 jerk. If it was a 24 half snatch and maybe like a 22 push press. I think it was something like that. So yeah, and I remember hit all the reps. And I remember I got to the end. I remember the push press just being the one where it's that false sense of security where the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna nail this. This is good. I'm feeding off the energy. The buzz is great. It's a great day outside. I feel good. I'm sweating. I'm tired, but I'm gonna get through this. Then I think 4 minutes hits, and you're like, oh, 2 minutes of this. Oh my god! And then you just get that incredible burn. But again, persevered, got through it. But that, I suppose, that first one, as I said, like the first competition made me realize, as I said, the nuances of pentathlon as a whole, and like, almost like taking a bird's eye view of all of the elements and going, here's where I can improve. And there's improvements across the board. It's being efficient in the clean and press is going to make life easier in the jerk. If you can make your jerk super efficient and keep your heart rate nice and low, the half snatch can be like a little bit of a recovery before the push press is going to be what the push press does, which will push you to your limits, but you'll get through it. So I suppose it's to say it's playing the strategies. You want to maximize points. So it's almost like this little game of chess of going like, okay, where can I place my pieces where I'm going to get most points, and where can I pull back and use my strengths strategically to get the most points, and for me, definitely, the clean and press was something that I could, go heavy in and get a few extra points. And for me, I found that it didn't massively fatigue me for the jerk. With the jerk, I had the engine there. It was just dialing it. It was that technical ability. It was that technical approach where, because my lungs could handle it. It was the efficiency and the endurance through my shoulders and my triceps that were like the limiting factor. So once we finished that first competition, me and Finbar went back to the drawing board and we're like, right, because I suppose then competition is great because that's where you push to your limits and that's where your weaknesses are exposed,
Yeah.
and that's where you can go, okay, here's where we're lacking. Let's take these things and let's work on them for our next competition. So say, with a client of mine, it was always our stamina. Our stamina just gave up. She was so strong. Technically, she was great, but just stamina just dwindled. So, putting her into, elements and training protocols where she's working at, 6 minutes sustained, erg work, or, doing things that isn't going to absolutely smash her for, 6, 8, 10 minutes, like high rock style training, that isn't all pentathlon, isn't all kettlebell stuff, but stuff that's going to elevate a heart rate, keep it there. And then since we've done that, it's been amazing. And it was the same for me. It was working on tricep endurance. It was working on like shoulder mobility and trying to just like be able to fixate and hold overhead comfortably. Once we did that, then it was, it just went bang, 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 bang. Yeah. Just climbed. Every competition was just better, 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 better. So yeah. But the first one definitely just opened my eyes to like, wow. Because then you were able to see as well, like, the community, I suppose, as well. Like in Ireland is great. It's a very like little tight community of people,
Mhm.
and you really see there. Like I love competitions because I suppose kettlebell training, if you don't train with people, it can be quite a lonely sport. It can be quite a lonely place where you're training in the mornings, late at night, just with this couple of bells, these long grueling sets, and it is tough. So I think in competitions you're able to almost go, oh, there are other crazy people like me that
Yeah.
like to throw this big lump of metal around, and they're a little bit mental, and it's great, it's crazy. you know
Shield. Yeah, I noticed in the UK the pentathlon is it's pretty big out there.
Yeah,
A lot of guys out there training pentathlon, and
yeah.
I don't know if it is if the community is as large here in the United States.
Mm,
We got guys like Kevin, but
yeah.
and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I don't know too many other like high level athletes such as Kevin out here in the United States that's training pentathlon. Uh,
Yeah,
I'd like to find them, maybe
yeah.
grow that
I follow like is it
pentathlon out.
Is it Joe Daniels? Have you heard of
So
Joe
Daniels,
Daniels?
yes, he is, but I don't know if he's like, competing anymore.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get him to come out to the All American for the past 3 years, and I just I
Oh,
can't seem we can't seem to find some common ground for him. I thought I was going to have him last year because bringing Valerie out and having the pentathlon flight, and I thought
yeah,
again I was going to get him this year, but I
yeah.
think there's some scheduling stuff, and I just
Okay.
don't know if he's like doing the competitions as much or if
Right.
at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I know he speaks about the pentathlon a lot on his website. I've been on his website a few times,
uh-huh.
and he's got a few good articles on the pentathlon. So yeah, he just popped my head there, just
Yeah, for
American,
sure.
but
Well,
yeah, I suppose
he's like the go. He's like one of the biggest kettlebell names,
yeah,
especially coming out
huge.
of the western part of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's massive following, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think in America, like it is like America last year, not last year, sorry, the year before, in the I suppose because IKMF especially, it's a very European based, organization, I suppose. Like I think I know that the comp next year is in New York,
Yep.
as far as I'm aware.
2026
Which
is going to be in New
that'd
York.
be so sick. So again, hopefully it gives, I suppose, America a chance, to really like, build and, start putting some, I suppose to start putting some people that have experience, in kettlebells and put like same as us, like, the hard style, I suppose, in America is much more popular style of training than kettlebell sports. So I suppose it is an opportunity, to showcase what the pentathlon is and,
Right.
how it can apply to so many sports. I suppose like even if you're a runner, if you're a CrossFitter, if you fucking high rocks, like you can take pentathlon and it can do pretty good things for all of your training. It can just complement everything.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I have, I'm training with guys now who, like one of the guys that I'm training with, he does ultimate frisbee, and he's training
Okay.
for pentathlon, and he's like, dude, this pentathlon it's just made my engines like endless. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
freaking sprinting. These guys can't keep up with me. you know, just simple stuff like that. I mean,
100%.
yeah,
But it's an engine builder, I think, especially you look into pentathlon, you're looking at even the likes of like half marathon sets, the half marathon sets and even the marathon sets in kettlebells are, I suppose, for people that maybe can't run, or maybe they've got problems with their Achilles or calves or hips, for example. If you're training for a 30-minute long cycle set, or 1 arm long cycle set, or 1 hour, like you're probably going to get some pretty good zone 2 work there. It's low impact to an extent. Your heart rate's ticking over, and I suppose it's a nice way to train that energy system. That doesn't have to be running, but you're still
right.
getting you're getting a whole body workout. You're getting very strong, getting very efficient. So there's a lovely crossover, definitely.
Absolutely. If you could the describe the pentathlon and what makes it unique compared to our classical kettlebell sport lifts. Like, classic kettlebell sport is 10 minutes long cycle. That's double clean and jerk, which is double bells, and then snatch, which is one hand switch for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Kind of explain the nuances and what pentathlon is compared to that.
So I suppose, like, from, again, I'll speak from just my experience.
Sure.
Like, looking at biathlon and looking at your standard 10-minute snatch set. Whenever I think someone enters the sport and they're kind of introduced to that method, I feel like almost the barrier to entry and the barrier to get really good at that is really, really big. It's really high, especially with the double bell, like long cycle stuff. Like, I suppose the double bell long cycle is probably, up there with probably like the pinnacle of the sport, where, like, you get good at that, you're going to be a pretty solid all rounder. So I think for me, and one thing that me and Finbar had a good conversation about, whenever I kind of started pentathlon, was I feel like the entry level to pentathlon is great for the main reason that, again, you've got the multi-switch component, you have the variety. So from someone that hasn't been, exposed to kettlebell sport and doesn't really know much about it, and you're seeing just one left, like double bell long cycle, that's all you're going to train. You've never done the sport before. You're only going to do this high skill, high capacity movement. It's going to gas you, but that's the only thing you're going to train for, for the next 3 months. I would imagine the, consistency and the lifespan of someone doing that might be quite low. And that's maybe where kettlebells hasn't found that popularity that other sports have, because the training is rigorous. The training is, especially for that one singular lift, like it's tough, it's very tough. So I think for me, and the reason, a lot of people in the UK and beyond and, Europe are falling in love with the pentathlons, because I think just the ability to train it and enjoy the process of training, because of that variety, because of the different skills you're training, and you're able to see progress across 5 lifts, not just one, right. And you're going to get people that are, and I think it's gamifying it as well. I feel pentathlon can be gamified, and it can be seen as like this points where it's like, okay, well, like I said about that little kind of strategy game of chess, where it's like, okay, well, you're good here, but you're not good here. But if you go too heavy here, you're going to fuck yourself here. And if you go too light there, you're not going to maximize points. So, I think the gamify element of pentathlon, I think, is another reason why people get involved and they go, how many points did I get there? How many points if I do that, if I change that and do this, I get that many points. Oh, that's amazing. So, it starts to become this game of not only there's a great workout and not only is it amazing competition, but, once you start to have that internal competition with yourself and see I suppose what's the word? Pen that you can have, and I always find, like, with clients that I've taught and with me, especially, like, going from that first competition to the second competition and then seeing the difference in points.
Yeah.
I was like, 300 point increase. I'm like, Jesus. And, like, in a 12-week training block, I've improved by this much. I know a lot of clients are the same, and they go like, oh, and that's why they get the kettlebell bug, they get the pentathlon bug, where it's like, okay, this is becoming addictive now. Like, I'm gonna wreck this type thing, or I'm gonna just keep going and see, like, how far I can get. So yeah, I think definitely the gamified version of it is a big reason why I love it. And as I say, like, going from your standard biathlon, long cycle sets, as personally for me, going from pentathlon, and now I've kind of like been introduced to an environment in Australia where them original lifts are really all they know. I was chatting to James Ross, who you might follow, GS Science. He's another great guy you could have on. Really,
right next
really,
to him this past weekend.
You
lifted next to him this past weekend.
Yeah, right next to him. Yeah, great guy. Really smart. Takes a sports science approach to kettlebell lifting, kettlebell coaching. Has loads of really cool insights. But I forgot what I was going to say. But he was saying about using, pentathlon, I suppose, as like an off-season kind of like
Like an engine builder,
Like,
GPT, right?
yeah, like off season, like, you're still keeping your hands in the element. You're still, you're still training. You're still kettlebells, but you're just taking yourself away from you know, the tedious, the long cycle,
Right.
the two bells above the
Being
head.
stuck in, so training biathlon, you're stuck in jerk and snatch for 12 to 16 weeks, or long
Yeah,
cycle, you're stuck in that lift for that training cycle. Whereas
yeah,
pentathlon, you get the essentials of kettlebell spread across the board,
yeah,
right? You're touching on all the
yeah,
fundamentals with pentathlon. I think,
yeah,
like you said about the whole gamifying thing, when me and the team sat down and we started planning each person's uh, goals. We're looking at the IKMF, the rap sheet for
yeah,
your your national rank, your CMS, your master sport, and your master sport world class. We're looking at numbers, and we got this whiteboard, and we're just writing out numbers and doing
yeah,
math, and what's our strong point, and where can
yeah,
we kind of go heavy, and then save some energy for like the push press at the end. How are we gonna be able to get to the push press and not gas out in minute 3?
yeah,
So it's super
100%.
fun to kind of piece it together like a puzzle. You know,
Yeah, 100%. And then whenever you go through that process and you do the competition where, you're going to reap the rewards of your labor of training, and then it's like, you get through the push press unscathed, and you go, well, compared to the last competition, like I didn't have anywhere near as much kind of like, I didn't gas as much. I hit every rep. My fixation was on point, and you're like, whoa. And you begin to like, again, fall in love with that process. It sounds cliche, but it is like, you understand that the training cycle you've just gone through has like served its purpose, and it's either just a case of recycling that again, or again, like if you've got a coach that likes to just like use you as a little test tube baby and just experiment in ways that are obviously specific to the sport, but just playing about with different
right,
timings and rep schemes and frequencies. I think it all makes for, because I suppose like, look, a lot of things are going to work. I suppose is if you're ticking the box of energy systems, it's specific, it's safe, you're not going to injure yourself. Like there's a lot of ways from a programming standpoint that you can, manipulate things and change things. And I suppose you can have a very broad, way of looking at it, and a very, just, you can kind of like blanket one approach. But I think from my standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, looking at the clients that I coach and going, okay, like, well, this girl has, these kind of weaknesses that I need to kind of like formulate something that's going to work on this. And she's got a really good engine, but she's lacking in the fixation department. So like, how can I put a program together that just really focuses on that, but doesn't lose your engine? So yeah, it's definitely nuanced, but I get super excited. Like I just
absolutely.
like
It's
one coffee and I'm like, yeah, my mind's
do
blown.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, when it comes to the pentathlon, how do you like approach the pacing across the 5 lifts? Because the rep caps, how are you approaching that? And does that how do you approach your weight selection? How do you across the
Yeah.
board,
Yeah.
what's your approach?
Yeah. So I suppose with me, like I'm a very just kind of, again, not, I wouldn't say naturally, but I have a strong background. So what I've done is my pressing is my strongest point. So I'm strong. I'm heavier as well, so I compete in the 85 plus category. So I've got a lot of leverage behind me that I can utilize in a heavier clean. So I know straight away, like if I have a 48 kilo clean, that's 700 points on the board already. So I'm like, okay,
Off the bat, but
let's let's maximize that. It's something I can do. Also, I'm aware that if I get really good at that clean and train heavy for that, and from a competition standpoint, I know that the half snatch as a byproduct is going to improve from a training standpoint, but also on the day, because of that kind of like, I suppose, potentiation effect, it's going to feel like a feather. If I go from a 48 kilo clean and then eventually I get to the half snatch with a 30 or a 32, like it's going to feel like a piece of piss, and that's the approach I've kind of brought to it. And then for me, like the clean and press, again, you're not going to get most points from it, but it's something that you want to do enough to where you don't kind of fatigue your shoulder girdle too much so that you can have an effective jerk. And the jerk is something then for me that because it was my weakest area, it slowly but surely turned into my strongest area that I could really maximize and get the kind of most amount of points in. So I looked at the likes of clean, I looked at jerk, I looked at push press, and I was like, right, there are the 3 areas. You get 120 reps. Mm-hmm. So if I can maximize the points and use the most weight possible to maximize them 3 areas, and use the clean and press and use the half snatch as like my active recoveries, then I'm probably going to be in a good place. If I can maximize them 3, use them 2 in between as like a little bit of just pull the intensity back a little bit, get through them okay, like still get good points, but not put yourself in a place where you're going to be like really struggling to recover. And that's kind of the approach I took to the last few competitions that I've done are, pull back the clean and press. It's 60 reps, not get as many points, but still use a weight that's going to get you across the board. In the jerk, like again, it was an area where just through training and doing the actual movement over years, I just became very efficient with it. My lower body became something that I could heavily rely on for jerks. And my upper body, I was able to, over time, just again become so efficient to the point where my quads, my hips were just doing 90% of the work. My hand was just like literally just there for the ride, stay there, back in, and it's just legs. And once you kind of cycle that breathing in, then and relaxing yourself and using that recovery. Because again, I suppose what you do in that 5-minute recovery as well is very important, especially in a competition where adrenaline's running, you're already like, you're playing mind games for yourself. Yeah, you're going like, oh God, I've got this next. Oh God, am I too tired? Am I going to do this? Should I drop a weight? What am I going to do? What if I don't get the reps? Oh God, everyone's watching me. You've always things going through your head. So I think if you can kind of quiet your mind, get yourself back to baseline, as quickly as possible. And that's something that we focused on quite a lot in training, was just between every set, breathing drills, get yourself back to baseline quick, do some fast and loose drills to get the blood out your forearms a little bit. Once I could maximize that as well, then I found that my ability to just get the heart rate down, be fresh, starting the new other sets became so much more stronger. I needed like 4 minutes and I was good to go. I think that was huge. If you can get your heart rate down and recover between them sets, you're going to be in such a good place. And I suppose that's where overall fitness, and if you're looking at the areas outside of pentathlon, looking at your, running, which was a big thing for me, and getting just your cardiovascular system to a good space where you can just become fitter. Looking at bike erg work that we did a lot of on the road to the World Championships in Budapest. And just like
we're talking about the assault bike, right? The Echo bike from like Rogue or
no, the
short spurts like 2010s, 1020s. You know what I mean?
The concept bikes and the concept bike ergs. So one of them. So we did little bits on the Rogue bike, but majority of it was longer pieces on the bike erg. So what we would have done was we'd have done different sets so we tested a 30-minute time trial. That was our like KPI.
Yep.
And then over the course of like an 8-10 week period, we did different formats of like intervals. So we had like, again, if we're looking at threshold, anywhere from, obviously from a pentathlon standpoint, the threshold is 6 minutes. That's your kind of work block where your heart rate's up and then you're trying to recover. So the threshold never went past 6 minutes. So what we would usually do is like start off a training cycle and 2-minute cycles of like, keeping the RPMs high, getting the heart rate up, then the heart rate come back down. And then over time, just slowly increase them thresholds to the point where you're doing multiple 6-minute cycles, high RPMs, getting the heart rate up, lower recoveries. And then we would retest that 30-minute kind of time trial, and look at how your heart rate comes down, look at how you were able to sustain the period of work, and use that as a good, I suppose, way to base your level of fitness off as well.
Right.
Because as much as running is also a great KPI, like it takes its toll on the lower back. I'm a heavier dude as well. So I don't think I'm built for running. So the knees and the joints got a little bit achy. So the bike was just the go-to for me. But once you can kind of put that fitness element and blend that into your skill and technique components, yeah, it just became, it all kind of just like a big jigsaw puzzle, just all kind of came together. But yeah, I think, back to your question about, pacing it on for the pentathlon itself, it is a game of chess. You're playing to your strengths.
Mm.
But if I could almost, give a piece of advice to anyone, it's, if you want to maximize points, like heavy clean, get good at jerk, and go heavy with push press, finish strong, and then use the clean and press and the half snatch as your little kind of like recoveries, if you want to call it that. You're still topping up points, but you're not gassing yourself to where you're not going to maximize the points of the big three, we'll call them.
I think you're giving a lot of great information. Kind of like it's my idea with doing these interviews, especially with these pentathlon guys, is one, to get information on the pentathlon out there, and two,
Yeah.
take a brand new person who listens to you speak for an hour or however long this goes, and be able to apply that knowledge to start, maybe developing something for themselves. So you're putting out some great info, man, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Another thing that I wanted to ask you real quick about, we were talking, you're in between sets for your competition sets, right? I noticed in Boston when I competed next to Kevin, between sets he's taken in some gummies or he's eating something,
Yeah.
like intra-set refueling. Talk
Yeah.
about it. You do that?
Yeah.
Do you promote
So
that? What's your
yeah. So me and Kev work with the same nutritionist, Chris Lowe. So we work with him essentially like, Kev did like quite a big like weight drop. He went from my category, and then he went to, I think he was in Finbar's category, and then Finbar dropped to the lighter category. So Kev, he dropped a good lot of weight. I don't know how much, maybe like, I think like 20 pounds, 20, 30 pounds maybe. You probably spoke about it with yourself, but for him and for me as well, like we wanted to learn about the performance nutrition aspect, coming to the kettlebell sport. And I think for Chris Lowe, the nutritionist we work with, he was a great guy. So a lot of the nutrition that we kind of like delved in was pre-competition nutrition. Like if the competition is on a Friday or a Saturday, maximizing Friday, maximizing Thursday and Friday, like learn a lot about nitrates, getting nitrates on board so you've got more oxygen going through your body. So taking on things like beetroot juice, which is an experience. Your peas like bright purple, which is pretty cool.
Great for the heart too. I know guys who
Yeah.
drink juice just for a pre-workout.
Yeah, well, 100%. There's so much science behind it as well. So it was interesting learning that, and then taking that into, on Friday, like getting upwards of 500-600 grams of carbs in, trying to lower your fats, trying to be aware of your digestive function the next morning, where you're a little bit nervous. You've got these butterflies going around, and you don't want to be like sitting on the bog every 20 minutes, for a competition. But that kind of like intra-set nutrition, I suppose, from the gels is something we had like tested quite a lot in our like mock sets that we would have done. So, from a training standpoint, the way we would have done with Finbar was had 2 training sets during the week, like a Monday and a Wednesday, or a Tuesday and a Thursday, where we would have split the pentathlon into 2 areas: clean and press jerk, clean, half snatch, push press. And then on the third day would have been like our mock test, where we did the pentathlon, and we would have just slowly increased the intensity and load, and just had a little play about with the rest times, I suppose, as well, and the weights and stuff. But that was our time closer to competition, is where we would have gone, okay, like what can we take on board? For me personally, it would have been between the clean and the clean and press. And what I found was, like, if you're looking at the pentathlon, into clean and press is one section, and then the jerk, half snatch, and push press as a separate section. It's like your grindy strength dominant things, where it's like your heart rate isn't really getting like too bothered. Because clean, you're fresh, you're good to go. Press, it's just about 60 reps. You're not going to get like overly tired. And then jerk, half snatch, push press, that's where, you start talking to Jesus a little bit. You start
Oh
seeing the
yeah.
devil and start having conversation with yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
so for me, I knew by the time that I took on some sort of carbohydrate, fast acting carbohydrate, a gel, gummy, whatever it was, electrolyte drink,
Mhm.
by the time that got into my system and was ready to kind of like do its job, I probably would have been like half snatch into the push press.
Okay.
So I tried an approach where I did something at in between at every rest station. So after every element, I would have gone, whoop, gel, sweet, boom, boom, boom. But for me personally, like once I got to the half snatch, like I just started to feel real sick. I could feel the stuff in my stomach. Like it wasn't digested. It was like just, I was like, oh, I
Start
don't feel
swishing
good here.
around, you
Yeah,
know.
it's all in there, when you're panicking. So you're hoarding in these things in between sets. And obviously 5 minutes isn't a long time to get these things into your system. So again, just through trial and error for me, it was, I don't know what way Kev does it now. But for me, towards, my last couple of competitions, it was just, as soon as I finished the clean, it was like straight down the hatch. Use that next kind of like 11, I suppose you're talking 10, 16, 15 minutes, let's say, for that to get into your system. Because if you're taking into consideration the 5 minutes, the 6 minute set, and then the 5 minutes after the clean and press, you've got 15 minutes there where that's got time to get digested, to then get into the system, to hopefully then by the time you're finishing your half snatch, really I want it for the push press. I want it to be kicking in so that them carbohydrates are just able to just top up and do their little job. And really as well, do I know that that gel that I've taken is going to go straight to the working muscles and just help me perform the push press?
Right.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Mentally, if I'm going, I'm
It's a
fueled
right.
up, I've got it. Do you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, could be
Yep.
like a placebo effect where it's like, could be doing absolutely fuck all. But if I'm like, I've got the energy, I've got my gel, I'm good to go. Like you can just make it work for you, I suppose, to an extent. So yeah, that's how I would strategize it, just to prevent, again, like, like an upset stomach, that sick feeling that comes with the half snatch in general. You obviously want to avoid that. But again, like use it to your advantage where you need it. But it's definitely a tool that I would, again, I advise all my kind of like athletes to do that. And also just do what works for them. Some people will do what I have done and what I kind of recommend. Some people will just rely on their prep the day before and the morning of, and then they just need a little sip of water or a little sip of like Lucozade, and they're good. They're good to go.
Yeah. Speaking of that, carb loading, like if your competition is on Saturday, carb load the Thursday and the Friday. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I do prior to competition is the night before, my go-to is spaghetti. I'll make a homemade spaghetti for me and whoever is
Yeah.
around that wants to eat it, And some people make fun of me for it, but I'm like, you know what? I learned this in the army, in basic training. So in basic
Yeah.
training, my drill sergeants were like, the night before PT test, they made sure we ate a ton of and for us, it was spaghetti. They would take us to the
Mm.
back. They said, everybody get spaghetti, everybody eat you know, a, a ton of it. And then
Yeah.
that's what you do before
Yeah.
a heavy, day the next day. So for me, that was instilled in me like years ago in the army. And now it just kind of comes out, in
Yeah.
competition. I'm like the night, and now guys are asking me, "Hey, are you making homemade spaghetti?"
Yeah. Bring me some.
We'll do trips out to Cali. We went out to Kansas. We've gone up to Boston, and the team
Yeah.
kind of travels together a little bit. And they're all like, "Are you making spaghetti the night before?" And I'm like, I
Yeah. It's become like a ritual now. Everyone
hell
expects
yeah,
it. But
yeah.
it's definitely something that like again, like learning from the nutritionist Chris, like he's very, very scientific. Everything he does is evidence based.
Mhm.
So, with him and the diet plan that he gave us, and everything was very much structured. It was all like the night before and exactly the same. It's kind of like pasta bolognese. It's low fat, it's moderate protein, and it's like super high carbohydrate. So it's something that you know it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people will go like, oh, I'm gonna have pizza. And I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
like it tastes great and it will give you a ton of calories, but like you are going to be running to the toilet,
Oh yeah.
more than you need to. Yeah, because of the fats, really. So I think once you kind of understand the role that I suppose you want the carbohydrates to play in your system, and Chris Lowe would always talk about it as like an overspilling effect. You want to have, it's like a super compensation. You want to have like more energy through your system than it can handle. So it's like almost like filling a bottle of water up too much and it just overspills. That's where the 4, 5, 600 grams of carbs come from.
Right.
So your body's got more energy than it knows what to do with. And then you can just
Get him on here
use,
too. Talk to him.
yeah, he is. Yeah, he is amazing. I'll send all the details. He's talked. He'll give so much. I watched like literally. I work with him. I watched like 4 of his webinars that he did. Just like literally paid. He was like, I was paying him, and I was like, I'm gonna pay you again to watch more of your stuff because he's so knowledgeable. He's a great guy.
Awesome.
Again, he'll be another because he's worked with. I think he still works with one of Finbar's clients, Dan.
Mhm.
Dan Smith. So yeah, he's obviously had to learn. I think maybe like Finbar was, I think, one of his first athletes who came from the kettlebell sport background. So for him, obviously, like it was a learning curve because he had to then learn about the sport, learn about, okay, what is the energy requirements, what is going to be needed, what's the total duration, what's the energy system at play, what fuel is getting utilized here, and then he's looking at then our training and going, okay, how many calories you're burning on this training set, what's the intensity like, how are you recovering. So everything was done with that in mind. So yeah, I think he's had to learn. So he could definitely give a lot of great, and way better than me, like a lot of great information that is specific to kettlebell sport on nutrition. So he'll be a great guy to get on, definitely.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him. You've touched on a lot of great things that beginners could take away from this. But what is
Yeah.
a specific piece of it, or just a couple little notes for beginners? If you were a brand new guy, never done kettlebells, looking to get into kettlebells, what's some advice that you could give?
Get a coach. Yeah. First and foremost, number one is probably like just reach out to someone. Again, like people that you have on your page, anyone that's local in the area that you can get involved with. But definitely for me, I think if someone just tries to learn this stuff alone, it's like, can it be done? Yes, but can that kind of time frame be shortened by learning from a coach and almost bypassing the common pitfalls, the common mistakes that you'll likely make by trying to do it yourself? Like, absolutely. And I would say like the second thing, say they've got a coach. The second thing is probably just like understand that there's a level of probably like ego that may come into the beginners kind of like mind frames. But again, let's take the everyday dude who goes to the gym, does bench pressing, pretty strong, like wants good physique, seeing a couple of guys doing kettlebells and going, I want to do that, looks pretty sick. Like you've got to understand that being able to go in, if you think you can press a 24 like kilo for 5 reps, like don't expect like when you start learning the jerk and the half snatch and the cleans and the push presses, like you're going to be able to do 24. You're probably going to start with the 16, and you're probably going to start with a weight that's going to humble. Yeah, it's going to humble you, So I suppose like get your ego in check would be number 2. It's like understand that there's a learning process to this, and it comes very much with a massive technical, background. And then once you kind of learn them techniques and once you understand the nuances in the techniques, then that gives you permission to increase the weight, And I suppose I always like to tell people about Falasev and how he begins most training cycles with a pair of 16s.
Yep.
And it's like, this guy can throw 32s above his head for 150 odd reps. But he will start a training cycle with 2 16s because he knows the importance of technique and dialing everything in. I was like, so if he's doing it, you're fucking doing it. Do you know what I mean?
His big thing is if you can't control the 16, how are you going to control the 32s?
100%. 100%. So yeah, it's so important. But I think definitely that's one thing I've noticed is guys coming in and, you give them a 16, they're just like, what do you give me that for? What do you give me a 20 kilo for? Like that's easy. And then, they do soon get humbled and taught the lesson, I suppose, and going, okay, I get
Get
you.
into
We'll
minute
pull.
3 and 4, and it's like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, come on, come back here, come back here, come back to earth.
Right.
So yeah, I would say like ego, and then I would just say like persistence. The it's like anything. I think it's like any skill. Like your ability to get better at any skill is by practicing it. Repetition is the mother of all skill, as they say. So by you just persisting with a process and a schedule that works for you, and just understanding that, I suppose like the road, any kind of road that you're going on to get better at something isn't going to be a straight line. It's going to be a little bumpy, and there are, if you're coming from, you've got certain imbalances, if you're coming from a background of bodybuilding, you are probably going to be tight above the head, and you may have to do extra kind of like work around your kettlebells to improve that. But I think just persistence and, and just understanding that it's not going to be an easy ride. If you want to get into kettlebells, you've got to understand that it's tough, it's grueling. It does build a lot of resilience, mentally and physically for an individual. But I suppose for a beginner, it's just understanding that you're going to be in the struggle bus more than you'd like. But you will reap I suppose the fruits of your labor if you choose to compete, or if you choose to follow a training cycle and then, test yourself and show what you're at. And I suppose like for that, it's understanding where you're currently at, where you want to be, or where you potentially are after a training cycle, and going, here's how much you've improved. I would say them three things, like getting a good coach, dropping the ego, and then just persistence is probably the three big tips I would definitely give. If I could like go back and talk to myself, like there are three things I would have a chat my ear about, is they'll make a solid athlete.
What's up? I think it's frozen. Oh, see, okay. Yeah, touch it, touch it strong, and then move. There you go.
Like I didn't go.
Oh, I don't know how to work that thing, bud. Why don't you go ask your sister? She might be able to help. Is she awake? Is she awake?
Yeah, but she's still awake for a minute.
Oh, she was doing that? Oh, okay. Won't you go ask? Sorry about that, brother.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
There's some great tips. One of the biggest things for me that I had to learn, because I came from, the barbell, dumbbell, aesthetic bodybuilding type, the biggest thing for me that I had to learn was, like you said, the art of being relaxed, or the softness that you have to kind of adapt when you're training, this style, the hybrid, the sports style, going for longer sets is like being just trying to be relaxed. And some great inspirations of mine, I've got to watch people like Kim Fox compete and do her thing, like in person and on video, but like when she's there in the rack, she just looks like she's about to fall asleep. I've gotten pictures of her and I've sent it to her, and I'm like, why do you look so bored?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just what you got to do,
Yeah. You just got to like empty your mind and just chill. There's a girl actually who I watched last week. She's called Cinderella. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I have, I think.
She is like crazy. Like I think she holds the world record in the 30-minute long cycle, for 20 kilo. And watching her lift like 20 kilo long cycle, and just like how smooth and easy and just so relaxed. Like she looks exactly the same minute 1 to minute 30. And it's just like, wow, like that is, if you could just like box up, the feeling that you want to create in, I suppose, these longer sets, it's that complete chilledness and relax. And even like James Ross, again, like he had done a long cycle set the day before. I think he hit like 90 reps with 232s. But again, watching him, like his face is, I suppose it's how you are, I suppose, perceived as well. It's completely like sitting there and chilling and relaxing. And his face didn't change like one bit. It's just like emotionless.
absolutely incredible that guys can do that. And I've been following GS Science, James Ross, for a while now. I'd love to talk to him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's a beast. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, just the level of softness. It's an art in itself.
Yeah.
Just being so relaxed. It is.
Big time.
Um,
Big time. It is. It's like, and I think, as you say, like coming from a background where it is, high tension, you're coming from like going like, like failure, brother, like, come on, like
yeah,
you're
Tim
giving it
Protein.
stacks. You're just chasing that fatigue. You're chasing that feeling of like where you want to crawl out the gym. It's like going in and understanding, okay, we're chasing the opposite to that. We want to finish these sets feeling like, that was easy. Like you want to literally are looking, you're like a guy actually, one of my first competitions in Belfast, a guy, I can't even remember his name, older lifter, did a 24 kilo snatch set. But I remember for him, we all went after for a drink. I was chatting to him over Guinness, obviously. And he was saying, I think I was asking him, I was like, what's the big thing for you? Like for me as a new lifter, like you've been doing this for like, 10, 15 years, like give me your gold nugget. Like, what is it? And he's like, search for the rests. He's like, in everything you do, in every single position you're in, like find positions to rest in, whether it's not just above the head. In a snatch, it could be where the bell is under your body. It could be in the rack position where you're obviously as a rest position, but it's like the more you can figure out, okay, opportunities to rest, is like that's where you'll find that, because you'll naturally have to just relax with so much more intent, whenever you have that kind of like, I suppose, that mindset. And I was like, oh, and that always, whenever he said that, I was like, wow, I've never thought about like that before. Like just searching for opportunities to rest at any point during the set. So yeah, I'd always kind of taken that with me. And I think breathing's a big thing, isn't it? It's like, especially for a competition, where adrenaline's running, you obviously want to, like, I suppose, yourself, like from a training environment to a competition environment, you're trying to get yourself to the same, I suppose, like the more exposure of the competition, the better, but you're trying to get yourself to the same baseline in competition as you are in training, your heart rate. And there's always that moment before you start like a clean and, you've just done your warm-ups and you're ready to go and you can feel that adrenaline just starting to go and you're like, oh, fuck. Yep. Your heart rate starts to move a little bit and you're waiting on that dump. And usually for me, the dump happened in half snatch usually. And that's where I was like, oh God, yeah, I'm feeling it, definitely. So yeah, I think that for me, again, it's like trying to just get your heart rate to a certain point, and that will just help with the relaxation. That will help with the ability to just be soft and be chilled. And, you want people to come up to you after and say, you look so relaxed. You look so chilled in that set. That was great. Rather than someone going, geez, you were fighting for your life there that whole time. Like, geez, you really got that tight. If you get in comments like that, you're like, oh God, I wasn't that relaxed, was
I? Yeah. That's hilarious. So training cycle. You're in a training cycle for pentathlon. How heavily are you relying on, coming from a strength background, barbells, dumbbells, things like that? How heavily are you relying on that type of work during a training cycle, building up to competition?
Yeah. So I suppose like from, again, my experience, like with general strength, it always would have been that GPP approach. So just purely for the love of lifting, it's something that definitely has a correlation with, injury prevention, just overall strength, overall performance, keeping joints healthy, keeping things balanced, I suppose, as well. Like, if you're looking at pentathlon, it is very like hinge dominant. It's very shallow hinge. It's very obviously pressing dominant as well. So using GPP, in my experience, was used in a way to just balance out, the pentathlon work, putting a lot more pull work and a lot more like retraction, working a lot more of like hip flexors and pulling, where they're, with pentathlon, you're maybe got a lot of extension through the lower back. So doing things that are going to work more like anterior, doing like deep squats, working like deep hip flexion as well. And just stuff that, balances out the kettlebell work, but again, like also puts you in a position where you're not going to be at risk of injury was the biggest thing. And also like just doing things from an intensity standpoint, we never really did anything that was too intense. Like we rarely went through near any, PRs, like 1RMs or anything like that. It's just more so like figuring out roughly what like your 70%, 75% was, and then just kind of like building volume with squats, bench presses, deadlifts. We did dips, loads of rows. We did lots of tricep work, pull-ups. Yeah, like just your big bang for buck movements that we went through. And again, like them sessions usually took like 45 minutes. Like they were in no way, shape, or form like the main meat of my week. But that would have been like twice a week, really. And then like outside of that, like really the kettlebell work was just straight to the point. It was like super specific. It's like, okay, where are we in the training cycle? Are we 6 weeks out, 10 weeks out, 12 weeks out? Usually like, once the season starts, you're always going to be like, for me anyway, like 8 to 10 weeks away from some sort of competition, like whether it be Irish Nationals, UK Open, some sort of online competition, and then into Worlds. You're always roughly like 10 or 12 weeks out. So the kettlebell pentathlon training cycle would have always started like very small volume, and then it would just sort of gradually got exposed to more volume, more intensity, less rest. Again, just manipulating these different kind of like approaches to get better. And then that GPP work would have been there essentially just to, support the work, but done in a way where you weren't going to be compromised. You weren't going to go into the next day going, your kettlebell set on a Thursday going, oh, I'm really feeling my chest from that bench press yesterday. Like the whole point of the GPP work was to do its job and not have you feeling beat up, so that you can just maximize your kettlebell training sets. And then, as I say, like the Friday was usually just some sort of like active rest, like massage or, very low intensity cardio. And then Saturday was always going to be the, that's your specific comp style. It kind of turned into more like a mock test as a training cycle progressed. That Saturday got, bigger and bigger and more specific to competition. And that's where, as I say, like we would have gone through like certain mental processes. We would have like gone, okay, if roughly you're going to be on like between 11 and 1 o'clock usually in competition, it's like, okay, I'm going to wake up at 8 a.m. I'm going to have my first meal, and then I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do my warm up. I'm going to spend half an hour doing my warm up. I'm going to do my warm up. And then so you're almost just tracing them exact steps that you're going to do in competition. So you haven't got to second guess yourself in competition. It's like, I know my process, I know my ritual, all these little small things like sorting your hands out, chalking your bell. You just know exactly what you're going to do. And that's always what Saturday was for that kind of competition experience, exposure, and just getting them little small rituals in check, really. But again, if I can just keep digressing, but back to your question about the strength was, yeah, it was just minimal. It was there for, again, enjoyment, to be honest. Like you're probably same as me, like you love lifting barbells, and that's something that we love to do. And it just so happens that,
however, I haven't touched the barbell since I started the kettlebells, dude. Kettlebells are really 100% of my training, other than calisthenics, which was going to lead to the next question. Being a guy of gold medal standard, Kevin as well. Just your piece of from experience. Can a guy train high level with only kettlebells and calisthenics? Let's say calisthenics and kettlebells, erg bike, assault bike. Can he get to high level status, gold medal status with just kettlebells?
Without calisthenics, just kettlebells?
No. We're talking no barbells, no dumbbells, only kettlebells as your weights.
And okay. And then body weight, and
of course, yeah, your pull-ups, your dips, your things like that. Can you get to gold medals without the barbell?
Let's say someone has zero strength training experience, like they haven't even seen, they don't know what barbell is, they haven't even seen it before.
Yeah.
Like, do I think someone can get a very? It's hard, actually, isn't it? Because for me, I'm very biased to strength training, and I understand the role that it can play. But I suppose, can you get to a very high level just in kettlebells? Well, yes, because there's a Russian regime that probably does it. Like they take these guys straight from school. And they're probably like, again, through the military, like, again, I obviously know that the kettlebell is the main Russian tool for training in the military. Again, I don't know whether they use barbells, and let's assume they don't.
Yeah.
Like, but I was chatting to a guy, Vasily Klimko, who is a lifter over here, like Russian guy, really, really good guy, trained with all the best guys, trained with Kostov for years. He was telling me essentially whenever he finished like school, university, like, again, he didn't do, I don't think he's really done any barbell training, but he is a seriously high caliber lifter. So I think if you can apply that specificity of kettlebell training, that slow progressive approach to whatever movement or whatever discipline you want to, like, you know, get better at, you know, with pentathlon, biathlon, long cycle, if you can just kind of start that process from, you know, dot and just get really good at that, like, and then use calisthenics to buffer kind of the missing areas, use the bike and running to essentially, you know, fill in the gaps when it comes to your engine, or to, you know, prolong your engine, build your base, shall you say. Like, yeah, the more I talk about it, the more I'm saying this, like, I absolutely believe it can be done. And again, like, I'm pretty sure there's probably Russians out there that are just popped out the womb and just take a kettlebell when they're like 2 years old and don't even look at a barbell, and they're just freaks of nature.
Yeah.
Like freaks. So yeah, I would say like 100%, because there's such a big skill process. And I feel like the skill process of kettlebells and the technique element almost outweighs the strength. Because again, you're looking at Valisev. Valisev's a freak, right? He just popped him ahead. But and Kostov's probably like, I don't know, like 70 kilo, like 74, I don't know, something like that, roughly. So these guys like aren't physical specimens, like they're not jacked, but they're moving 32 kilo bells. And even Finbar as well. Finbar is, you know, like he's under 75 now, 60, 73, maybe 60, 70 kilo roughly. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But watching people, guys like that shift 232s, you know, shifting a 40 kilo bell, it's like, you understand that there's an art to the technical aspect of it, and it isn't just raw strength, you know? And I think them guys prove it, that if you've got the correct leverage, you understand how to move your body with the bell, you understand how to use your body as one piece and not just muscle it, then absolutely, it can be done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
final answer.
I want you to talk about your performance last weekend. You did, so at the Austin Nationals, you did military snatches, which is a 12-minute snatch set. And the big difference is it's multi-switch. So a couple key differences. It's 2 added minutes on top of the 10, the traditional 10. But you get this element of a multi-switch. So it kind of, it's not, I've never done it, so I can't speak from experience, but I can imagine that it's a little less taxing on the grip. Walk me through your training process for this, how you got there, and let's talk about the competition.
Yeah, cool. So I suppose the process with this, it's not something that I almost stumbled upon military snatch. I'd like been aware of it. But when I arrived in Australia, you know, they're very much traditional with the lifts. It's, you know, it's one-arm long cycle, it's long cycle, military snatch, which, because I think they're IKUL kind of like rules. So again, a bunch of guys competing to the case.
Oh,
yes, yeah. So all kind of like traditional lifts. So I was like, do you know what? Like military snatch, always something that's been on my radar. I'll definitely give it a go. So they had a few interstate competitions here, which are just like smaller competitions, like in your kind of like state. So I did a training cycle for about 6 weeks when we arrived here, with the intention of doing military snatch for the 24. Because again, like I'd never done, the most amount of time I had ever spent, you know, lifting one weight for one lift was pentathlon, which was 6 minutes. So I'd never been past 6 minutes ever. Like I'd never even attempted it. It'd just been so specific to pentathlon. That was it. That's all I knew. So I was like, and even going through full snatch, it was a little bit rusty, felt a bit mental, you know. So I definitely like had dialing technique quite a lot, you know, got a lot of help from, you know, Tristan and stuff who I was training with. So yeah, what I decided to do was look at nationals as my kind of endpoint and go, okay, that's kind of 4 months away from our journey started in Australia. So I was like, okay, we've got 2 interstate competitions coming up, and then we've got nationals. So what I'm going to do, that's 3 competitions. I'm going to do 24 kilo for my first 12-minute set. In nationals, I'm going to go through that. I'm just going to fail 12 minutes. Like, is it going to be a massive task? Like, no. Like, I know my ability right now. Like, I'll get through 12 minutes 24, like, fairly easy. But it was more so just to feel the effects once I got to like 8, 9, 10 minutes. Like, does my technique change? Do I feel like that kind of burning sensation in my forearms? Does it need to be a bit more efficient? Does my fixation, maybe does my left and right arm have these kind of like differences as I get into the 10, 12-minute sets? So understanding that with a 24, again, like you said about Balasev, like if I'm doing that with a lightweight, I'm only going to do it with a heavier weight. So once I could kind of watch the video back and see, okay, my right side seems to roll a little bit. I got a few kind of like shout outs from the judge about that little roll that, again, at that point, I wasn't really even aware of. So I could kind of like take that information. I think I got like, I was going super reserved, but I think it was just under 200 reps that I hit. Again, it was good. It was fine. And then I think I had a 6-week training block. Again, looked at the kind of like 24 kilo set. So the next training block I did was for 28 kilo. So I was like, cool, right. The next set I'm going to do is going to be 28. So that kind of like methodical approach. So really from there, like I knew my engine wasn't a problem because I was training for a half marathon at the time. So I was getting plenty of runs in. My zone 2 kind of engine was getting kind of broadened, shall we say. And I knew that was going to have a good effect on my zone 3, zone 4 kind of area where I'm probably going to be for the majority of the time with this military snatch set. So I knew that was going to get kind of sorted. So I knew my engine wasn't really an issue. It was really going to be in the fixation elements and just the actual movement itself. So a lot of like my training, again, I train bells twice a week. So I did basically Tuesday, Thursday. So Tuesday was always going to be more so a interval-based approach. So I started off doing like, 10 1-minute sets, and then going into 2-minute sets. Again, really methodical, like super simple. I did, 1-minute intervals, 2-minute intervals, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I didn't go past 4 minutes. And then just, increase the sets, how to play about with the rest times. And then the second day would have been more so like specific where I would have done just one longer piece, starting at 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And then I think I got all the way to 8 minutes as my final like test set. And in that set was where I was really focusing on like, trying to hit 20 RPM, trying to focus on fixation and just using that as my like really kind of specific approach. And then I would have dialed in some things in there with some shoulder mobility. I would have always done jerks because, again, the fixation element was something that I needed to work on. And I enjoy doing jerks anyway. And I thought, to kind of like get more out of the session, I'll just add in some really cool jerk sets and just make sure that I'm locked out on that right side. Did a lot of core work. Again, balanced out all the kind of like upper back work and tricep work that was lacking. Yeah, and then just recycle that approach then with a 32. Right. So I knew that process worked from 24 to 28. It was about a week longer than I needed going into nationals. So I literally just had the plan like laid out for myself, and I was like, okay, that worked. Let's just go, instead of 28, let's do 32. And then I would have dabbled with a few heavier sets as well, like 34s and 40s in my interval sets. And then really from there, like it all just seemed to kind of like blend together. But I think for me, the biggest thing like for military snatch was definitely the threshold approach to it, like that zone 4 kind of area that you're basically in for 12 minutes. Like first 2 minutes, your heart rate's just going bip, 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 starts to get there. Once you get to minute 2, minute 3, depending how fit you are, like your heart rate's elevated and it stays elevated the whole time. And then really it's about trying to manage that heart rate, manage that stress, and still just maintain that technical ability and, that standard that you want to hit. So yeah, I think for me, like on the day, like the nationals, it definitely went way better than, not way better than I thought. I was always shooting for over 200. So to get 210, I was so happy with it, like really happy. And I suppose it wasn't until the last where I really started to feel it, obviously I trained up to 8 minutes, and I really started to feel it in that last, obviously once you get past 8, you're like, okay, you're now relying on them interval sets. You're relying on your training to kick in and, get you through those last 4 minutes. So I remember getting to like 10, and it was almost like, like people say, like Jesus took the wheel type thing.
Yeah. Oh,
But it
yeah.
was almost where, like, I completely like zoned out, and it was just like, it wasn't even like I was in control of the bell. Like I was just going on pure, my automatic system just kicked in, and I was like, we're going.
Autopilot.
Yeah.
You're into that.
Autopilot.
So you're into that, you're just empty minded,
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, there was something that kicked in. I say autopilot kicked in, and I was just focusing on breathing and just getting through the 2 minutes. And then at that point as well, like your mind does go, there's part of your brain that goes, it's 2 minutes. You can do 2 minutes. You're good. You're fine. You're going to finish this. It's all going to be good. And then that kind of, I suppose, that silver lining of you're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. You're going to survive. I think for me, that last minute, then I think I did like 24 RPM in the last minute. I absolutely rattled it, So I think for me, being able to finish in that way, being able to finish strong, and shows me that I'm like, okay, like I have more in the tank. If I'm able to finish with the higher RPM in that last minute, then I can go, okay, well, that process definitely worked for me. That, my fitness is on point, the training and running and everything else that I've been doing, like outside of the military science training, like it's definitely like paid off. And for me, like I know, like on another day, like I could probably like push 230, I think.
Nice.
Definitely. So I think, through recycling that training approach, maybe throwing in, a few heavier bells, like maybe training more sets with a 34. I definitely think just building that capacity with a heavier bell going into 32, like, yeah, I definitely think 230, 240 I would love to break the Aussie record. That would be a cool goal. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
So what I take away from that is you're doing 2 training sessions a week when you're training for military snatch. The first session is going to be more interval-based training. Are you hitting the volume of 12 minutes?
So yeah, at the start, it's like 10 to 12 1-minute sets. Okay. And then over the time, it actually, so in the beginning, I'm doing more. And then as time goes on, 12 minutes almost becomes like the easier kind of like set, because I'm going from very high intervals, low intervals, high sets, where you're doing maybe like 18 to 20 minutes worth all in. And then over the time, it becomes, as the intervals get bigger, and the sets become smaller. And then that's when it comes down to more specifically 12 minutes. So yeah, I just kind of manipulated it in a way where it was high volume, but high sets, minimal work. Yep. And then as I got more kind of aware of, the heavier weight, my fitness improved, I adapted, then them intervals would gradually get bigger and bigger. So yeah, start high.
You said on the first day, they didn't really go over the 4-minute mark, right? So I'm assuming later in the cycle, you hit maybe three 4-minute sets, right?
Yeah. Right. Three 4-minute sets were like 60 to 90 seconds rest.
Nice. And then in your second day, you're hitting a longer set. And you said you didn't go over 8 minutes. Did you do multiples?
No. So it was only ever one set. And then I would finish off with, again, like easy cardio, or some sort of accessory set there that would have like challenged, just a lagging area that usually would have been, again, in my case, it's always going to be this right side. Just did not want to, like, always had that little bit of a roll, which I managed to fix because, again, I got pipped for no reps for, fixation, which was amazing. So it definitely worked. But yeah, always would have been just like one main set. And then I would have gone on to like another area. Like I always had to keep myself like ticking over with jerks, for example. And just keep that kind of like axe sharpened, if you want to kind of use that analogy, and just stay sharp with them things, but use them in a way where, I'm maintaining that technical quality of jerks, but I'm also using it in a way that's going to support my overhead position. Yeah, big time. And then go into like a anterior core set overhead. And again, usually like hanging knee raises usually was the one I would always go to for, working anterior core, hip flexors, and just helping open up the shoulders as well, really. Like that, they're probably a big go-to. So yeah, I always use Thursday as like, Tuesday was always where my energy was good. There was always going to be like big meteor, like high intensity or sets. and then Thursday where, you know, I would be a lot more specific. So as time went on, it doesn't really seem like a lot, you know, when you think of it like that. But, you know, I suppose for me, just my ability to recover and go into them sessions like super fresh, like I think that was the big thing, you know, rather than go into a session feeling super sore and beat up all the time and you're not recovered from the last session and you're not going to get as much quality out of them training sessions as you would like. So yeah, it definitely worked.
And we're using each training block you're using specifically. So when you train for 24s, you use 24s for both. Yep. Maybe you hit a little bit heavier on the lower end. And then when you same thing.
Yeah, well, in like when I first, again, because the full snatch was something that I hadn't really trained a lot of, you know, coming from pentathlon where it's just all half snatch really. So I purposely wanted to just do 24. I probably used 20 a handful of times, probably just more of a warm up, to be honest, for like, again, potentiation. But that first like 6 weeks leading to the first comp, it was just all 24 because I just wanted to go, right, let me just get this technique dialed in. I didn't want to ruin my hands. I didn't want to overload it as well. So, and I just wanted to go into the first comp feeling confident and use it as a little bit of a, almost like a bit, again, like a little confidence booster as opposed to be like, okay, like that was cool. That was sweet. I enjoyed that. That was nice. It was a nice little exposure to competition. I ticked it off. I hit 12 minutes. Cool. Job done. There's no need, I think from my experience, like, could I have gone in and done a 6-week prep with a 32 and absolutely like cried my way through the first competition with a 32? Like, probably would have, like, but what I've got 210 reps, absolutely not. And what I've like absolutely destroyed myself and probably been disappointed, probably, you know. So I think I've learned over the years of doing this that, you know, you're better off sticking to a methodical way of doing things. And if you have an end goal to do something, I suppose the longer you can make that end goal, like, and set yourself a process, the more likely you are to achieve that goal, like in style and with ease, you know. And it doesn't really, you know, we can put that on anything. Like it's, you know, for the pentathlon, like I did, you know, the final competition in Budapest was, you know, that wasn't just an 8-week block. That was 4 years of training that had eventually led to that. You know, that points total was only a dream. Like when I first started training, I remember like walking with other half and being like, God, one day wouldn't it be cool to get like over 2,300 points? God, that'd be amazing. Like, and almost going, God, it seems like it doesn't really seem too achievable. It seems like a bit of a long shot. Like, could I do that? You know, so the fact that I was able to do that is to say, like, it was definitely a product of years of training, not just, you know, that block. You know what I mean? So, you know, like as I said, like, could I have gone and done the 32 kilo, like, and use that kind of perseverance and just tenacity that I probably have and just grinded through it? Like, again, probably, but I know personally, I'm probably smart enough to know that like if I look at the process, like, could I just be smart and like lengthen this out and get a much more quality set at the end? Like, definitely. So yeah, I think like, you know, I'm very, again, I learned a lot from Finbar on just the specifics of kettlebell sport, and you don't have to add too much fluff in to anything really. It's just, if you're training for a 12-minute, you know, military snatch test, like, do snatches. You don't need to do too much more. You don't need to do all this other fancy stuff. Like, just probably do like 2-3 days of snatching, like, and you'll get really good. And then as long as you've got some sort of specific component in there, which will kind of like match the demands of what you're eventually going to do, then you're all for it, you know. And then you can train on some weaker areas, you know, like, again, like it was the fixation for me was the biggest thing, you know, work on the engine, then game on. So I suppose like once I finished off that first block with 24, that second block then was just all 28s, couple of 32s in there. Again, didn't really dabble with 32s too much, apart from just when I was fresh warming up and just having a play about with it, and then moved in the 28 kilo set. Then, as I say, I just used that exact same process and just logged on the intensity. And that's why, again, like, you know, from a programming standpoint, people are very quick to go, that program worked, but let's never do it again and let's do something completely new. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or just, you know, for like, why? It's like, that
nothing
worked.
Wrong
like,
with it. If it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I'm a big fan of doing that, of going like, you've got evidence there that that process worked. You've also got evidence of things that you can actually change and maybe improve a little bit, and just do that same process again. Like again, if it's got your result and you enjoyed it and it hit the nail on the head, like why put yourself through all the stress of trying to, figure out another way of doing things? Unless you just want to go full guinea pig mode and you just write something out, then you do you. But for me, I was just like, I'm already programming for my clients like 5, 6, 7 hours a week. I was like, so if I can make my stuff as simple as possible and just use myself as a guinea pig to go, okay, well, I can just, because I'm like probably the same as you, I'm robotic in terms of like whatever's in front of me, I'm going to do. Like, I don't care if it's a 10-year program, like you give it to me, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So it's, for me, it was a simple case. It was just repeat it, tweak little things, and then just do it again. And again, it worked. We'll put it that way,
A question popped in my head for pentathlon. I just want to jump back real quick. Are you doing let's say you're doing a 12-week training block. Do you pick your weights at the beginning of the training block, and then that's the weight you're training with throughout your training? And also, how many are you hitting full pentathlons, and at what intensity? So your weight that you plan to do in competition, are you dialing back the weight and hitting full pentathlons during the training block?
Yeah, so we've done like with Finbar, we did it a few different ways. So I'm trying to think how we did it. Yeah, so let's say like I think we had 10 weeks from UK nationals into the World Championships, 10, 11 weeks it was. And the way we usually work it was we go, okay, what's the goal? What's the dream goal here? Like, okay, it's 2,400 points, it's these weights. Cool. So again, where our training frequency was 3 days a week for kettlebells. So them first 2 days, we call them first 2 days like training days. So there were the 2 days that were going to be like not specific, but where you had that kind of interval approached. And what we would have done is we would have front loaded a set. So we would have done, again, it was always kept within the parameters of the pentathlon. Like we weren't doing, 7, 8, 10-minute sets. Like it was always we already started off with like, say, 2 90-second sets. Week 2 would have been 2 2-minute sets, then 2.5 minutes, and then 2 3 minutes. And we never would have gone really past that. And what we would have done is just manipulated the rest times. But what we'd have done over them 2 sets was had a front loaded, so a bell size heavier than competition weights. And then you would have gone to your competition size bell. So it would have been 2 minutes of, again, 50 kilo clean. And then you would have gone 2 minutes, 60 seconds rest. And then you would have 2 minutes of 48 kilo clean. And we would have like done that with all the movements. We would have done that probably over like a 4 or 5 week cycle. And then with the pentathlon, like specific day, we would have started with a bell size lighter for the first 4 weeks. So we would have done like, week 1 would have been like, say, a 2-minute set, then 3, 4, 5, 6. Then sometimes we would have done 6 minutes, sometimes you wouldn't. I think on a very rare occasion, we would have done a 6 minutes prior, but usually personally for me, the most I'd ever done was a 5-minute set. So with the bell size ladder, we would have gone up to 5 minutes, done a full 5 minutes, 4 minutes off. Again, you would have had the same feeling. You're in that energy system. You're feeling it. You're going, cool. Yeah, I felt great. And again, in that time, you're kind of like dialing in all your rituals. And then into that second kind of cycle, what we would have done is just gone, okay, let's go super specific to competition weights now. So that third day, that would have been a bell size ladder. You're now working at competition bell weights. And really now that would have been kind of like worked in a way where as soon as you hit a 5-minute set, the next week is comp week.
Okay.
So you're just hitting like week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and then week 6, minute 6 is your competition type thing. So would it almost been like a wave cycle, if you want to think about it in that way, where you've been like working up with like,
right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So it would have been like first 4 weeks would have been up to a certain point. You'd have like obviously pulled back because you're starting your next block with say 2 3-minute sets, but with heavier weights. And then that would have finished off a little bit higher. And then, as I say, in them 2 training days that we would have done, the intensity of that started to rise by just pulling back the rest times. So the rest times between them 2.5, 3 minute sets went from 60 seconds to 30 seconds.
Okay.
You were still doing that little bit of potentiation by going a heavier first set. So again, it would have been like, 36 kilo jerks into a 34 kilo. It would have been like 36 kilo half snatch into a 34, so you're just front loading everything. So I think mentally, like for me, it was like, if I know I can finish that second training set with, technique on point, heart rates controlled, then that gives you confidence knowing, okay, I've just done like 5 minutes of volume there using a bell size heavier for half of it. And I finished off with 30 seconds rest, enough time to basically get a breath and change your bell. I've basically finished that stronger. So it kind of gives you that confidence going into the third day, the specific day, where you're like, okay, like I'm going to nail this. This is all good. We've got it 100%. And again, I think you have to be so, again, like I said, one thing about Finbar's programming, and personally for me at the minute, and what I've learned from Finbar is just, in keeping with the demands of the pentathlon. You know what I mean? Like, your heart rate is going to get elevated. You know that in that 5 minutes, you've got to recover fast. Mm-hmm. You know that you've got to have an element of technique, but you also have an element of like, you need to have some heart in there as well, and some tenacity to really like dig. So I think using them training sets to like, get them characteristics out was really, really good. So when it came to that third day, it was just about refinement. It was just about, feeling the weights. It was about feeling the time. And then just letting your training do its job really. And then for us, again, it wasn't a crazy cycle. It wasn't most sets. If I think back now and look at the training cycles that we did over like the 4 or 5 years we worked together, like it was a really similar process every single time. Like we knew what worked. And we just, as I say, like the only thing that we changed really was the bell sizes. As I got better, as I got stronger, as I recovered better and got better results on the platform, we just had a chat, took that information and said, okay, well, here's what we're doing now. And it would have been bang, 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 we're up in this, we're up in that. But the process really always kind of stayed the same. And it just, again, from a matter of personally for me, like as long as I was showing up as I was recovering well, eating right, sleeping well, keep my stress low. I didn't really have any, I think the only not injury, but the only niggle I had was just, you probably know yourself, like just the rests really.
Yeah.
That pressure from especially using like the 40 kilo in some cases for.
We got to get your hands on some pro bells.
Yeah, 100%. Like I did a cycle with the 40 kilo Cowbell King, and it absolutely murdered my wrists.
So you're in Australia. I know the European. Have you ever heard of Levis Stark or Gregory Desmali? I think that pronounced his last name correctly. But if you look him up on Instagram, or he's a big YouTube influencer, I believe he is now the European distributor for the pro kettlebells. So,
okay.
With the tariffs and everything, it's very, very hard to ship things from the United States overseas. But I think Nikolai and that guy Gregory have a thing worked out where he's going to be, distributing over on that side of the world. I'll try to get you in contact with Nikolai and see if we can't get your hands on some belts.
That'd be great, man, because I know, like, again, I was chatting to the two guys I train with, Tristan and Rob, and they were, we were just having a discussion about it because, again, we'd all seen it, but we're like, what's happening there? Like, what's going on? So we're definitely interested in just trying it out, I suppose, because.
Anybody over there have any?
No, not that I know. I know that Tristan had sent a kettlebell off to China or something, and I think he was almost going for the same approach where the handle kind of usually sits like quite narrow into the base of the bell. He wanted to basically thicken that out a little bit.
Okay.
So again, it just similar kind of thing. It just sits a little bit nicer on the wrist. Yeah. But he sent it off to China to some company, and he just never got it back. So
the thing I wanted to point out with these is, a lot of times with the traditional bells, you're doing 4 kilogram weight increments, right? And
Mm.
these bells are designed that way too, but with this massive opening, they've also designed this little this 2 kilogram weight chip. And it just
Yeah.
goes right in there. So that's your 2 kilogram weight jump.
Is
So
that a magnet? Have you twisted that in?
that's a
It's a
magnet.
magnet.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
These work on the bottoms of traditional bells too. However, they're specifically designed for these, you know?
Yeah. I'll feel much better because I know there's a lot of comps that I've been to and the magnets go to the bottom. But I think for a lot of athletes that aren't
Well,
used to
that
using
throws the weight distribution off even more.
100%, 100%. That's what I was going to say. Like it feels so alien, 100%. And
Right.
then you've got that issue if it comes off as
Exactly.
well.
And,
You know what I
these
mean?
are
Like,
already designed in a way that the weight is compacted up towards the handle.
yeah,
With the weight chip, everything just stays tight. Center of mass stays up towards the handle. So it's a
yeah,
good
yeah.
design, man.
And
I'll see what I
yeah,
can do by getting you in contact with Nikolai and see
yeah, that'd be amazing. I'd
what else.
definitely love to get a few, 100%, because that'd be good to try, especially with the heavier bells, as I say, like, dealing with that Kettlebell King 40 for a training cycle. And oh, Jesus, yeah, my wrist
Yeah.
got a good hammering, put it that way.
The only thing is, though, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I know he has developed a 36. He has a couple that he has produced,
Yeah.
but I don't want to speak out of line, but I don't know if he does anything over 32s right now.
Oh, okay, okay. It's probably going to be in the works, I'd imagine, in the coming years once they kind of like build their popularity, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like I said before, I think these bells are the bells of the future. And,
Awesome.
IKO has already adopted them as their house bell. They're the
Yeah,
bell. It's gonna take some time for bigger organizations like IKLU and WKSF. Even
yeah.
IKMF recognizes these bells. They allow them.
Do
So
they? Yeah.
they do, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
At least here in the United States. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or if you've had them I don't know how world championships work for IKMF if you were to take your own bells, but like I know they're going to be present. So I'm helping.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be helping Judy with the IKMF in 2026 over here, and I'm going to take my
Sick.
collection of bells, which is eight.
Yeah.
You know,
100%. Well, again, I think a lot of athletes in Europe, they'll definitely 100%. Like if you can expose them to that bell and a couple of them get to use it, like again, it's a great way to, get more exposure to that brand and that way. Because I know like a lot of I've actually seen a girl fracture her wrist
oh,
on the platform
I bet.
from doing jerks and literally like top of the jerk, her arm snapped like in the UK Nationals a few years ago. Like horrendous. Went straight to the hospital in a sling. Like just from that pressure of the bell. And obviously, like there's a tissue kind of like factor in there as well and a few other factors.
Absolutely.
But if that was a flat bell, like would that have happened without that little kind of like, that roundness digging in? Like
Yeah,
probably not.
think about it. That round bell is just that one little spot is what's pushing onto the
Yep.
wrist, is creating that pressure point.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
these alleviate that 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Class. Yeah, get me in touch with that and I'll definitely see if I can get something worked out to get maybe like even if it's a pair of 24s or something, try and get some over here.
Sure. Yeah, I'd
That'd be
love to
sick, man.
see a set of these hit Australian land.
Yeah, yeah. Spread the word.
Yeah. Dude, we've touched on training, we've touched on pentathlon and military snatch. We've hit some nutrition. If I'm not holding you up too much, I
Nope.
want to touch on a little bit of mindset with you and some discipline aspects. Walk me down a path of mindset for you. What's your mindset look like coming, like taking on the training block, coming into competition? You've already spoke on building a ritual for competition day.
Mhm.
I've heard you talk about some breath work. walk me through some mindset stuff. Walk me through what discipline looks like for you.
Yeah. So I think for me, like the biggest thing with like mindset, and if we're looking at mindset in terms of, how consistent you can be with your training, how I suppose resilient you can be, like how can you come back from maybe like a poor training session? How can you come back from maybe like a poor competition? Then for me, it really comes with the ground of like, again, with a coach. When I work with Finbar, like we always sat down and go, okay, what's the goal here? And I think for me, and again, many other people, if I've got that end goal and target, like if I know why I'm doing something and that's the end goal, and there's a competition end of it, and I've signed on the dotted line, I'm going to do this thing, and I've paid the money and I've signed up, then personally for me, that gives me the leverage to wake up and do things when I don't want to do them. That kind of discipline muscle gets trained. The Also the ability to not cheat yourself when it comes to the actual training cycle itself. Like I know we've all been guilty in the past of going, it says 10 reps, but I'm just going to do 8. Nah, no one will know. It's them little things there, that them little small opportunities.
You will know, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you can always tell yourself, like, I'm the most competitive person you'll ever meet as well. But in my head, I'm like, there's someone out there that I'm going to be on the platform with who is, not missing reps, who is doing the work, who is, hydrating, who is getting their water, and who's waking up, he's doing the shit. And I think the more I thought about that, and I always took that mindset into, especially prepping for the World Championships the second time. Like I knew from winning it the first time that there was a target on my head in terms of like, there's going to be a bigger caliber of athlete here that are going to come out. So I've got to get prepped. I've got to be ready. And I had that whole year from January, basically as soon as the IKMF championships finished in Brussels. I think I had like a 3-week layoff, and then I was like back on. I was like, right, prep for next year, let's go. So that whole year was, like the foot really didn't come off the gas. And again, for me, the biggest thing is, and this is any endeavor, I think if you can give yourself like some form of time frame or some form of urgency or some sort of accountability to do what you said you're going to do, whether that be in a competition, whether that be lose a certain amount of weight, whether that be lift a certain weight, whatever it is, like if you can have accountability, tell people that you're going to do something, people are then going to expect that from you. So in my head, like I made it publicly clear on social media, I'm training for World Championships, going to win a gold medal, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, put it out there publicly. So for me, like mentally, like again, it just became my leverage to, again, show up, to do the work, to not miss a rep, to nail every single thing inside and outside the gym. And that was huge for me. And then again, from that, I started thinking about my, opposition, my competitors, and going, these guys are definitely training. These guys are definitely waking up. They're putting the work in, and during them really tough sets, like them grueling sets where you're like, 1 minute to go and all you can think about is putting the bell down. It's just like, no, he's not putting the bell down. I'm not putting the bell down. We're going. And I think all them kind of like little mindset, kind of like little conversations I was having, all came to a head in that kind of like last competition I did with the Polish guy, Casper, where it literally was like me going, I'm not putting the bell down. I'm not doing it. He's not, I'm not, so all these conversations I have myself, like, like virtually, it all kind of like, it was like a full circle moment. Like it all kind of like happened where like my competition is literally right beside me. Yes, I've been making up a little bit to get myself through the sessions and motivate me, but it literally, for it all to come ahead in that moment, in that last, like in that pentathlon was amazing. And that's why I think I got the result I did. It was almost just like that was the byproduct of all that kind of work and all that kind of, I suppose, resilience that I've built up to not want to stop and to go a bell size higher whenever I knew that wasn't the plan. It was like, okay, well, all the training I've done for the year has definitely kind of like paid its part. But yeah, I think, yeah, if that answers your question, I think mindset is get yourself really accountable, set yourself a goal, and like book something. Like if you've got a goal, like make sure it has an end date.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like make sure there's like, again, with pentathlon, it's great because it's like competition. Sign the dotted line, fill the form in, pay the money, and then you have no choice but to do the work. Because I think everyone's biggest fear is stepping on the platform and flopping after 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Like that is the biggest fear. So that for me meant that the work had to be done.
Absolutely.
And you know what I mean? I'm sure you're the same. It's like, you don't want to step on a platform and, after 2 minutes you flop and everyone's like, he didn't put the work in. Like he's just messing around. Like, we're here, like we're taking this seriously and he's just down after 2 minutes. Like, what a loser. Do you know what I mean?
Not a good
That's my
look.
biggest fear. Yeah.
What's your you spoke immensely about rituals, your comp day ritual. Walk me through yours. What do you do on comp day? From the time you wake
So
up to the time you lift that first bell for the clean.
yeah, so comp day usually, again, I felt like I think the Aussie Nationals was the only competition where I haven't had the pleasure of being on between like 9 and 12 o'clock,
Mhm.
like which is like the sweet spot I think to be on and just get it done and just be present the rest of the day. I was on like 3:30 or something. God, it was hell. But yeah, for me, it's usually a case of making sure that I get a really good sleep. On the Friday night. So eating my last meal a good bit before bed, so it's not sitting on my stomach. Make sure I'm hydrated. Get a really at least 8 to 9 hours sleep, like really deep, solid sleep. Take a few supplements to help with that. Wake up. Usually, like with competitions, you're away somewhere, so you're either staying in a hotel or you're, an Airbnb. But for me, I would always try to have my first meal around like 4 hours before I'm on the platform. So if I'm on the platform at say 10 o'clock, then 6 a.m. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have probably like my first meal, which, in recent times has always been like a big bowl of like overnight oats
Mhm.
with banana and a big massive bowl of water or bottle of water and just sink that into me. And then 2 hours out of competition, I'll just top up with like a banana, Lucasade Sport, and maybe a few jellies type thing as well, or a Rice Krispie Squares bar, something like that, like 40 to 50 grams of carbs, like just knock that back. And then really from there, like I'm not doing anything until I go in and basically I'll just keep topping up water. So yeah, 4 hours out, first meal, 2 hours out. At that point as well, like I'm not really going to go to the venue like too early. I like to just like keep myself away because as soon as you go into the venue, like, the energy's there, you're
Mhm.
watching people, you're getting yourself like the adrenaline starts going a little bit. You're like, what can hell, like, the nerves and excitement start to build a touch. So, I like to kind of stay away a little bit, like just have a little walk in the morning. Usually we have the luxury of being in like the lovely cities. So we'll just go for a walk. We'll see the sights a little bit, just take it really easy. And then usually about an hour and a half out from my lift, I'll get there. I'll go straight to the bathrooms or the changing rooms. I'll get my kit on. And I usually start my warm up around like probably 40 minutes out from my lifting time. And what I usually do is like, just like it's everything that I've done in training. So I'm not going to do anything that is like largely like different. Like I'm not going to go get a Theragun and start like bashing myself because I don't do that. I'm
Right.
not gonna, I'm not gonna grab two bells and start doing double bell work because that's just I wouldn't do that. It's not what I do. It's just completely different. So I would just really follow exactly the same steps. I do 5-10 minutes of just like very gentle stretching, just more so to get my mind going. Okay, we're going to do some light movement. Then
Mhm.
I'll do just kind of like 20 minutes of very light pentathlon work, just really grease the groove, like use like a 20 kilo and just go through the movements, just get my hands ready, like start just moving a little bit. And then I'll prep my bells. So after I've done that first little bout with a 20 kilo, I usually before, like as soon as I come in, I'll usually get my bells anyway. Usually no one's touching the 48s, thank God. No one's stealing them. So I'll go and just prep. Usually I'll just prep my bell for my clean and my half snatch. So I don't need to prep a bell for jerks or push press or anything like that. So I'll just prep them two bells, put a bit of chalk on them. I don't really use too much, or I don't absolutely like embed the bell in chalk. I like to have just like a nice light coating, but not too much. So I just prep them a little bit and then lay them to the side. And then, as I say, once I've done that first bout of 20 kilo, like just grease the groove, I'll just gradually take 5-10 minutes. I'll go a bell size higher. I'll just grease it again, just again, keep moving. I just want to kind of give myself like a bit of a light sweat. I really just get myself in a space where more mentally I'm ready to go.
Right.
You know, I think that's what warm up is for me. It's gets me in the mental position to go, I'm good, I'm ready. You know, and it's that balance of prepping but not fatiguing yourself, I think, is key. And again, I've just learned from me what that is, like through my training sets and just going, okay, it's always 20 kilo and just go through 5 reps of everything, like without putting a bit, almost like a complex, just bang, 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 put them all through, get to the push press, put it down, little shake off, maybe a bit more of a stretch. Okay, 24, 5 reps again, bang, 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 bang. That by that stage, like you get to the end of the push press and you're kind of like, okay, like, yeah, we're getting there. Right. And then what I'll usually do is like, I'll go heavier with the clean. I'll probably grab like a 40 with the clean and just start doing a few reps of 40s. Because it really, for me, like that gets everything going. You know, that gets grip, that gets posterior, that gets upper back, that gets shoulders, everything that gets work. And then I'll do a heavier jerk, probably like 34, 36. And then I'm good to go. Like 5 minutes out, 5-10 minutes out, I'll literally do my last reps. And then from there, it's about just breathing, relaxing, trying to enjoy it, chat to a few people, just have a little bit of like, you know, you're trying to like, yes, take it seriously, but you also just want to, you're there to also have a good time. You're there to enjoy it. You're there to experience this with people that, you know, people beside you. You know, Kev's usually like always on the same platform as me. We're always competing together. So me and him like to like just pump each other up and, you know, like just start fucking headbutting each other. Just get each other like in the zone type thing, like slap each other across the face. So yeah, like we just, you know, get yourselves in the right mindset. But for me, like that ritual is what I've always done and probably what I will always do because I just know it works. And again, it's specific to me. Yeah, 100%. You know, and Kev has his way of doing things as well. Like I've watched Kev do his warm-ups and he's a lot more like intense and aggressive with his warm-up. Like he's I feel like sometimes his warm-up is like a main set, you know, like he's lifting, like he's going, like he's really going at it, like to the point I'm like, hey, would you relax? Like, you know, yeah. He's crazy, man, crazy. Even like I've noticed, like even when he's on the platform, he gets his bells on the platform and he starts doing a few reps before the clock starts. We're like, relax yourself. What are you doing? We're not be touching that. But yeah, like that's for me, like, you know, it's just using the warm-ups for what they're intended for and using everyone's ritual is going to be specific to them. And I suppose with the rituals and routines, it's finding what works for you. And I think that's the same in any routine, any ritual. Like I know, you know, one of the big buzzwords recently was like the morning routine. You know, like Huberman comes out and says like, get sunlight, don't drink coffee, drink electrolytes, you know, read a book, don't read a book, do this, do that. You know, there's so many conflicting ideas, but yes, there's science-backed stuff that will work, but ultimately, like it needs to work for you. You know, if you have someone that's got obviously young kids, like, are you going to be able to sit for 10, 15 minutes and read a book and then go get sunlight and then, you know, go and have organic sheep's milk from the Himalayas and, you know, and it's like, come on, like, but if you can do maybe one thing that works for you and that one thing that you wake up and do every single morning, like makes you a more productive, healthier, happier human, then it's like, keep doing that thing, you know?
Yeah. So what's coming up next for you? What's in the future for Mr. Gareth?
Yeah. So right now, obviously there's no competition coming up. I was actually looking, so me and my other half, like before I came on, the New Zealand Nationals are coming up in November and they are doing the pentathlon. So I was like, could I make a little trip over to Auckland, which is actually a very long way away from where I currently am, even though I'm in this part of the world, it's still a long old trip. Mm-hmm. So I'm potentially toying with that, about going over and potentially just doing a pentathlon because again, I just love it. And I haven't, you know, really trained with pentathlon for a bit now since I've been here. So I'd love to do that. But aside from that, my training goals at the moment are I'm going to train for a World Games set. So 10 minutes, 40 kilo one-arm long cycle. So I've built out a 12-week block for that. So essentially I'm going to try and get to like 120 to 130 reps. So I'm going to do it in like 2 6-week blocks where essentially the 6 weeks in, I'll test with the 40, see what I get. And then what I'll do is just recycle that
It works.
that first 6 weeks again, and I'll just increase the RPMs. Simple as that, really. So I'm going to do that. And then also I've got a goal to press clean and strict press 232s for 20 reps. Nice. So that is, yeah, that's also like a current training goal. So currently you can do 9. So I literally just started that training goal last week. This was week 2 going to be coming. Yeah, so just using like lots of interval based sessions, like again, high sets, relatively, I'm not going to go close to, it's all going to be 10 sets. But I'm just going to wave cycle the reps from 3 up to 6. Right. So I'll start my training cycle at 30 reps. I'll finish it with 60. And then again, just building that base of overhead work, building a lot of double bell cleans as well. So yeah, I think next year, like using this as like a bit of an off-season approach to build some strength overhead, get some heavy like clean and jerks in, because again, I just love kind of training jerks. And I think that'll have a nice crossover to, you know, we did snatch there for 4 months solid. So I'm just going to kind of like let it kind of have its pace. And then I think once I finish this training block, I'm going to get back into the snatch. I'd love to do some double long cycle work next year. So I think that's going to be on the cards, I think. I think watching like the James Ross, Alessandro, Tristan as well, you know, these boys do, you know, double 32 long cycle. Very inspiring for me, because it's just like, whoa, that's something I would like to get involved in, you know, and be one of the big boys up there doing
a good bit of, you know, pentathlon single bell work. You're going to start dabbling into the double bells.
Yeah, 100%. Do you know what I mean? And it's an environment thing as well, though, John. It just shows you like how much you know, your environment just play a piece. Like watching Rob and Tristan, you know, do 32s, 28s, you know, long cycle. And I've never really trained long cycle at all. So, you know, I do need to get better at overhead. So that's why I'm going to do this kind of 32 kilo pressing program, and then building jerks in from that, which will kind of in my head, I'm like, okay, it makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, like competition wise, like again, nothing crazy. I'm contemplating doing the New Zealand Open. But really from that, it's just going to be about building strength, having fun, because it's been very specific for the past 4 months. So just taking a little bit of a break from the rigidity of, you know, competing there. Yeah, just building some strength, having fun, challenging myself. And then probably into 2026, yeah, I think I'm going to just have a little crack at some double long cycle. I'm going to do military snatch again I'm going to aim for 240. 240 reps. Yeah, so that's really it at the minute. Yeah, definitely. And then say we're in Australia here for the next year. So if we go back to the UK, then yeah, I'm definitely gonna like get back into pentathlon training, like with bells on. That's gonna be the goal.
Nice. Look, we do the All-American every year in October. I would love to see you come out, man, and get on a pentathlon flight next to Kevin.
Mate, that would be the dream. I'm gonna start saving for the flight now. That'd be so good.
I know yeah. Australia is a good bit away, but maybe we can get some scheduling. We could talk about some scheduling stuff. I'd love to.
Yeah. Well, we're back. We're going to be back home next June. We're going to be back in Ireland in June, for a few months. So I can maybe like finish that time in Ireland and come out to the US, and then like fly back, and then potentially come back to Australia. So yeah, that'd be great though, because then I can use my time back home to train for pentathlon, and then get out there and compete with you guys. That'd be sick. Yeah. I'd love that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Are you in there? You know.
You what?
I wanted to drop that seed.
Yeah, man, I was gonna ask. That's already sprouted. That's already out. It's already built a flower. I'm already going.
I'd love to bring you out, man.
That's sick. Are you West Coast or East Coast?
I'm East Coast. So I'm currently in Maryland. So I'm in DC. I'm 30 minutes from DC.
Okay. Also, would you fly into Washington? No, can you fly into Washington? Where would you fly into?
What do you mean?
So if I was to fly over, where would I fly into?
I would probably bring you into BWI. Baltimore, Washington International. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Or,
cool.
You know,
cool.
Philly is an international airport. You might come into Philly, because we hold the competition in New Jersey and Atlantic City. So might fly into Philly, and it's an hour drive over to New Jersey. That's where when we bring in Dennis Vasilev and Valerie Fedorenko, we fly them into Philly and we Uber them, we taxi them over, or they take the train. You know, it's up to them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I would love that. That'd be again, it's an excuse to visit America, which is never a bad thing. Love it. And
Nice.
excuse to train kettlebells with some legends. So yeah, man, that'd be fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Well,
sick.
Gareth, where can I know you're doing your online coach, you're in person. Where, if people wanted to work with you, where can they find you? How can they reach out and inquire about coaching? And do you have a website that people can go on? Do you have programs already written and available for people to purchase? Let us know.
Yes. Everything at the minute, super simple, is all through Instagram. So just at Gareth Molloy, and you'll see just links there for programming. Again, to be honest, like I don't have any kind of like inbuilt programs. Like everything I do is all kind of like tailored to the individual. So yeah, that's the way I like to work things. I had done things before where it was a kind of blanket program and handed out, but I ended up just making changes to everything, to be honest, to suit the individual. So yeah, all training I do is very tailored, very bespoke to the individual. I work again with a lot of kettlebell sport athletes and just even like everyday kettlebell kind of like warriors, you call them as well. Like, you know, busy dads, busy guys, busy girls who, you know, just have kind of setups like yourself at home, have a few bells in the garage and just want to stay fit, healthy and need 20, 30-minute workouts. So yeah, if anyone wants to contact me off the back of this, like it'd be fantastic. Or even just chat like we have about kettlebells or need any tips, advice, technique tips. I'm always happy to help, to guide, support in any way I can. I tried to kind of like do it through my content as well. But yeah, Gareth Molloy is the main place you can catch me on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, you put out a lot of great information. I know I follow your page, and anytime I see reel, I'm watching it all the way through. And so I appreciate your content. I appreciate you doing this interview with me and allowing me to pick your brain for all things pentathlon, all things military snatch. You've given me a lot of great insights as far as training philosophy, mindset, nutrition. I really appreciate it, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing you perform. I'm looking forward to trying to get you to come out to the US next year. It'd be great to see you, to meet you.
100%, man. No, mate, I really appreciate it. To say, yeah, I was happy just to talk, really. It was nice to kind of just like, you know, for me, just to talk about processes, because sometimes, you know, it's all very much go. So to be able to stop and reflect on, you know, what I've done in the past and what's worked, what hasn't worked. And, you know, if yourself or anyone can take any of these lessons and apply them and use them and it helps, then that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. So no, mate, I really appreciate you having me on. Really, really appreciate it. It was a great chat.
All right, Gary. I'll be in touch. Okay.
Good man.
I'll throw up some links on this because we are live on YouTube right now, but I'm also recording, so I can go back and kind of edit some things for, you know, other socials and try to put you and your information out, you know, a little bit. I'll throw in links to your page and all that good stuff on the YouTube, and yeah, we'll go from there, man. I'll stay in touch.
Yeah, let me get a photo before we finish so I can post that on my ground. Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks, mate. Right. No, I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. Okay.
Sir, take care.
Thanks, man.
Oh, now you want to say hi.
There we go. Bye.
All right. See you, brother.
Have a good one.